Hello, and welcome to Select and Start, the podcast about meaningful and memorable video games. I'm your host, Keifer, and every episode I bring on a guest who selects a game that made an impact on their life. I am joined today by a wonderful guest, cartoonist John P. Golden. John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you here. This has been an episode that we have been talking about for basically ever, and the stars have finally aligned to bring you on the show to talk about a game that we will talk about shortly. But before we do that, I want to make sure that the listeners get a chance to get to know you. What do you do and what do you like?
Well, as previously stated, I am a cartoonist. I'm a comic book artist. Most of my work involves writing and illustration. I have worked in different sort of like nerd-based fields for most of my young 20s. I worked at a comic shop and retro game store for about 10 years. So I have a love for all things storytelling based, which is why I'm definitely like a JRPG coded guy. Other than that, I'm a pretty standard, run-of-the-mill 90s kid. Grew up watching a lot of pivotal cartoons, everything past the Ninja Turtles through the Street Sharks, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Watched a lot of anime growing up that I think the kids today would refer to as Unk Slop. A lot of Dragon Ball Z, Big O, Toonami coded stuff that...
Your Tenchi Muyos.
Yeah, your Tenchi Muyos, your Yu Yu Hakushos, all the what have yous.
Hell yeah. Well, I love Yu Yu Hakusho, so if that's Unk Slop, then I'm sorry to hear it.
It's great.
Yeah, no, it's one of the best.
Unk can be right.
Unk can be right. I wish it had more video games. Like, I don't know, but I guess it's over. So what do we expect? I'm imagining a world where I guess like Dragon Ball would have always had like Japanese video games, but like there are a lot of like American developed Dragon Ball games because it exploded in America, right?
That's true.
Yu Yu Hakusho did not explode in America, so that's why we don't get like a lot of... there was like some stuff on the PlayStation 2 and Game Boy Advance that I remember playing when it was airing on Toonami, and that's kind of it. It disappeared.
Yeah, there wasn't too much.
Yeah. John, give me some examples of some comics you've worked on.
Oh, when I graduated college, I started working on a webcomic called BONEMEN. It's a high fantasy satire, sort of those old Conan and Red Sonja type books. But the idea is that it presents the skeletons that get kicked apart in like 2 seconds by every hero as the main characters. It's not like an outright parody. It's supposed to be like tongue in cheek, but you're still getting the same sort of adventure, but like with a little bit of humor from deconstructing the tropes, as opposed to just, something more like, hi, my name is Steven Skeleton and my job is to get killed by a hero. You're presented with them as if they are the hero. There's about 60 pages of that on a webtoon. I'm not presently working on it. It's sort of my interim project. I've done a graphic novel tie-in for the TV show Over the Garden Wall, which is pretty fun. That came out in, I think, 2018 or 19. It's called Circus Friends. I didn't write it, but I did illustrate it.
Nice.
I've worked on a few sort of like anthology Kickstarter things here and there. Over the past couple of years, I've had a stint doing merchandise design for professional wrestlers, which is pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be shocked to find out, or maybe not shocked to find out. Maybe it's exactly what you'd expect, but a lot of comic book guys and wrestling guys like each other's stuff. Yeah. Comic nerds like wrestlers, and wrestlers love comic books. So I started doing some fan art of some wrestlers that I liked, and I happened to select all the nerdy ones. So I've been on a bit of a detour for the past couple of years doing t-shirt designs and that sort of thing. But I've recently gotten back into working properly on comics, and I'm doing a few issues of the new Adventure Time comic, which is being published through Oni Press.
Nice.
Presently, I think I'm slated for like only about 3 issues, but I'm hoping that leads into me getting to do something maybe past Adventure Time, or maybe more. I'm going to try my best on it, guys. So you should pick it up if you find it.
Support your local comic shop and pick up comics because the industry needs it.
Sure does.
And coming back to the wrestlers thing, this is a show, and as I've discovered working on this show, a lot of wrestling fans, a lot of guests who are wrestling fans. If you name the wrestlers that you've worked with, if you're allowed to,
oh yeah,
they would all be thrilled to hear.
Oh, well, I've done about a bazillion designs for Danhausen,
the best,
who's indie wrestler legend at this point. He might pop back up on AEW someday. Who knows? I will not text him and ask and tell you, but. He was sort of the first guy that clocked me because when I saw him perform, I was like, this looks like a guy I would make up for a comic. So when I drew him, he was like, this is my favorite version of me that people draw. So I've done a bunch of work for him. I've done work for Brody King. He is a heavyweight bruiser guy. If you don't know who he is, he's also the front man of a hardcore band called God's Hate, which just inherently rules.
Yeah.
And I've done designs for him personally. I've done a design for his band. and I've done. I actually got to do 2 shirt designs for him and his tag partner, the Luchador Bandito, who also rules. I got to do 2 Brodito shirts when they were the tag team champs. And I think those are probably my most visible shirts. I feel like those ones went over real well. Brody's another one of those guys that's like giant, terrifying dude, loves comic books. Comic books love him back. He's worked with, present contemporary superstar Daniel Warren Johnson on a few projects. Like he's all up in there. And then honorable mentions, I have done 1 shirt for MJF. It was not very good. And I did 1 shirt for Hangman Adam Page. And it was pretty good. I liked that one.
Yeah. Well, thank you for name dropping. We appreciate the name drops here because you just got a lot of buy-in from a lot of listeners. I'm going to tell you that much.
I love wrestling.
Yeah. Wrestling rules. I'm also wearing one of your shirts right now. There's no video feed for the show, but I am wearing it's basically the Scarface poster, but you did it with Shadow the Hedgehog shooting the gun, like in the video game Shadow the Hedgehog where he shoots a gun.
Yes.
And I don't really know how to describe this appropriately other than to use this chud term, Chad physiognomy with his face.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. I think the like Sonic sort of aesthetic painted over a jacked freak man, I feel like people are semi-familiar with it. It's present, I think, in popular culture.
Yeah, but it's it's Shadow the Hedgehog with the Scarface poster, and it rules. Wearing that shirt.
Thanks.
But hey, some listeners have bought in, but as we know, no community likes to gatekeep more than the gamers. So we have to check your gaming credentials here real quick. Let's talk about your history with video games, who or what got you into it, your relationship with it. What is John P. Golden's portrait of a gamer?
Portrait of a gamer. That's kind of fun. I actually have. I don't know if I've ever talked with you about this just off the cuff before, but I feel like I actually have a fairly unique background with my relationship with video games. Because when I was a kid, I had 3 brothers, and none of us were like allowed to play video games at all. Like video games where you cannot have them in the house. And the whole reason that is this is kind of a funny anecdote, so I'll include it. But my dad, when he was growing up, he was like one of those guys that was like Huckleberry Finn when he was a kid. He's just running around going on adventures. Video games didn't exist at that point. He was born in the 60s. But he, in his young adult life, he worked on an oil rig. And in the break room at one point, I think they had either a Super Nintendo or an N64 and a football game in it, probably just like Madden or something. And he was like, oh, this is interesting. I'd love to try this. And he sat down and he played it. And the way he tells the story is I sat down, I played a little bit of football, and then I stood up and 3 hours had gone by. And I was so mad that I had lost 3 hours that I've decided that this will never be allowed in my home. So when I was a kid, I had a really weird relationship with video games in that I was almost allowed to play none of them on my own, but we were permitted to have handhelds for road trips.
Okay.
So when I was growing up, like the sort of bread and butter that my family had was, my first game was Pokemon because, I was born in 92. So I was the ripe age where the first console I ever had was a Game Boy Pocket that was the exact same color as the blue version that my parents got me with it. My older brother got red.
Had the same Game Boy Pocket.
Yeah, I love the Game Boy Pocket. Because of that, I think my personal access to video games was limited because that trend continued till all of us graduated college. There were no consoles in my house, but I loved video games. I was fascinated by them.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to play more, and I lived in the suburbs. So there's always like a neighbor kid with an N64, and it was always the most alien thing to me. And then asked me, do you want to come over and look at this? And I'd say yes, but I wouldn't play it. I would watch them play it. I remember the first console game I ever saw. I was 7 years old. This kid had, this might also be formative because it was such a weird thing to see. The first console game I ever saw on a TV was Mischief Makers for N64.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, and I had no idea what it was. And I didn't figure out what the title of it was until I was like 22. And I finally saw another copy of it. But growing up, I sort of had this sort of outsider interest in games that I think sort of sculpted me to be more interested in the nerdy angle because I had more access to learning about the games than I did to actually playing them. It was always like finding a neighborhood kid who would tell me about it. So because of that, it's like I wouldn't want to go over and like play, Madden with a kid. I would want to like go to the neighbor kid's house who had a GameCube and he had Skies of Arcadia. And I'm like, what is this? This is crazy. Like, tell me about what this is. On top of that, I became enamored with sort of the budding era of video game pre-YouTube like reviews. Like Angry Video Game Nerd was formative to me, and it taught me about like older games. So the amount of games that I've played and the amount of games that I knew about growing up is very different. But now that I'm older, like I have access to this stuff on my own, I definitely sort of tend to go for games that have a more retro feel because that was the stuff that was like the most fun to learn about, the most stuff you'd see online. And it's more reminiscent of what I had access to on a handheld. So it's like I played a lot of JRPGs because, Street Fighter on the Game Boy is not good. Street Fighter on the Super Nintendo is. But Pokemon, the JRPG, is great on the Game Boy because it's turn-based. Stuff like Robopon on Game Boy Advance. I was big into Monster Collects, that kind of thing. So I played a lot of JRPGs, but mostly the stuff that was limited to handheld. And now I still tend to lean that way, where it's like a singular one-person experience, because I'd always had to be handheld, usually pretty low impact gaming. And I like learning about like weird stuff that's hard to find, because that has always just been part of the experience for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of something that gets lost in how there are now two generations of people alive since you were born. That's not me saying old. I'm just saying like unk status on
Yeah,
accident. Sorry,
I'm Unk. It's fine. I'm Unk.
but like at that time in the '90s, there was still kind of like an exotic feeling around video games because it
Yeah,
was like a young generational divide between like the younger people versus like the older people. Like Gen
right.
X and millennials were like interacting with video games as they're growing up, but
Yeah,
your dad getting upset that he lost 3 hours of his life to fake football
yeah.
does feel like a kind of like, I know more than one person that has this story of like, my dad played a video game and he lost so much of his life to this one video game that the whole medium was just banned from the house because I like of that experience.
Yeah, it's like it's sort of the primary version of the scroll hole that we have now, where it's like you get addicted to dopamine on your phone. Like the very primitive version of that, I think, that Gen X was exposed to was, I played a video game. What happened to those 2 hours?
Yeah. And there was like places you had to go to play video games if you did not. I think I mean, now another thing that's lost is because of cloud compute and everything. You can play video games on ding dang Netflix.
Oh yeah,
That's look, it's this thing where it's like the access to the thing inherently makes the thing less exotic, and that's the whole thing with the proliferation of the internet. But for you, it's like you were hearing legend of a game called Doki Doki Panic and stuff like that. It's
dude, it was like Zelda. It was like someone would be like, "Have you heard of Ocarina of Time?" Or
yeah.
"Have you heard of Final Fantasy VII?" And I would say seven, but it's got final in the title. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like you're hearing there's a final fight and a final fantasy. All these legendary stories of million unit sellers.
Hmm.
There that was a place that could exist where a person could just hear about video games and it be new to them. And then this is also a huge commercial market, and it is now the most, in spite of the industry eating itself alive, it is also the thing that generates the most revenue compared to like television and film.
True.
Yeah. So what is your favorite console?
My favorite console, that is a little tough because, as previously stated, I didn't grow up with too many consoles outright.
Hmm.
I think if I had to choose one that I would say I got the most mileage out of, I don't know if this is a weird pick for someone my age because it's not very it's not very nostalgic, but the 3DS
Mm,
was crazy for me because it sort of was a console that had an unending library of games, and it was sort of the tail end of Nintendo having that digital download option where you could play all those retro games. Like I played Demon's Crest from the Super Nintendo on my
good game.
3DS. I played Shantae for the Game Boy Color on the 3DS, and then the 3DS in its own right had like a fantastic selection of stuff that I like JRPGs, but also weird fighting games and side scrollers and that type of thing. And it being backwards compatible with the DS is also crazy because I think the DS has a great library. But if I had to say like a broad stroke, I would just be like, Nintendo handhelds have always had me. They have been holding me in their hands.
You had the whole world in your hand and it had you.
I had the whole handheld in my held hands.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to track it. Like the 3DS came out when you would have been about 19 years old. Was that like the first console you bought for yourself?
No, actually, let me think. I think the first console I bought for myself outright, where it was like I saved up all my grandma money, was a Game Boy Advanced SP.
Really?
Yeah, I remember because I was the only one of my brothers. As previously stated, there were four of us. So obviously we all had to have a Game Boy, but we all had the Game Boy Advance at the time. And then I had saved up and spent $100. I had $100 from Christmas and my birthday to spend on a Game Boy Advance SP. And I remember my mom being like, "I'll cover the $7 tax," which was very fun for me.
That's my story with buying the 3DS. Is like I like it was $250 though, and it's
Mhm.
like I did forget to account that like yeah, you could just buy Game Boys were $99.
Yeah, no, it's why I remember there was when the 3DS came out, it was so much more expensive than previous handhelds that they had that Nintendo Ambassador program. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
It was like an apology for how expensive it was. They just gave you a bunch of free downloads if you bought it before they had dropped the price, which I think is very funny, and I'm glad that they did it.
Yeah, it was like a whole thing where like I like basically calculated everything ahead of time, but did not account for the sales tax when I was 15 years old. I like traded into DSI for everything. RIP, I miss it. Flipnote Studios. You guys ever
Flipnote
hear
was
of this?
crazy. I completely missed out on that, but I saw so many videos later. What a cool thing.
That should have been the end of the internet, I think. I think like that's where like we should have like hit the wall in terms of like what was allowed to be made. I think that was just like so creator driven, and that's also like the place where I like discovered people who were just like really into things like Ace Attorney, and
Oh yeah.
like the way that I grew my taste, just people doing like I'm just drawing stuff whatever, and it's like what are these characters, and it's like oh I'm just like some dude in the UK who's just really into whatever niche video game like Professor Layton or whatever, and I'm like
Right.
I had the internet, but I wasn't thinking to use it to like learn about new games. I was just relying on the zeitgeist. And then here's like some nerds because I can actually access the internet on my DSI teaching me through illustration. What a time.
That's cool.
Yeah. Point is $250 for a goddamn 3DS. What were they thinking?
I mean, they realized they beefed it. That's why they had that dumb ambassador program, which is that's just like the funniest thing in their history, other than maybe the Virtual Boy.
Like I think a launch Wii was 250.
Yeah, no, it was way too expensive.
And a launch Wii came with Wii Sports. What did you get when you bought a launch 3DS? You got you got the QR games that came with
Yeah.
it. So you got some fucking trading cards.
I think like there was a port of Street Fighter 4 and maybe Cave Story 3D, which is the only bad way to play that game.
Yeah, and the game I got with my launch 3DS was a DS game because it was also the same time Pokemon was it
Probably
Black and White? Pokemon Black
Yeah.
and White was the one that came out that year. So I was playing a DS game on a ding dang 3DS. I'm saying ding dang a lot. You're allowed to cuss on the show.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. So interesting story. When did you have home consoles in your life?
So this actually, my dad's getting a lot of airtime on this, but there was a moment. It was my freshman year at college. My older brother had been at college for 2 years. We're pretty close in age, and it was like we were all home for Christmas, and I remember telling my younger brothers who were like, "What's it like now that you can have a video game?" Like it was like a meme the entirety of the time we were growing up. It's like you cannot have video games. But like my younger brothers who are still in high school are like, you can buy video games now. It's like you have one. I said, yeah, we've got a Wii in the dorm. He's like, oh, I bet you play it all the time. I said, no, I got a lot of work to do. I only play it when there's like a reasonable time to play it. Like it doesn't see that much time because we're working really hard in college. My older brother said the same thing. Like, yeah, I have an Xbox. And I remember my dad like stopped eating at the head of the table. Like that had never crossed his mind that we had self control. Which, granted, 4 boys growing up in the suburbs don't have self control. If you leave a box of Pop Tarts out on the counter, it's gonna be gone in like 45 seconds.
Sure.
But him hearing that, and this was right around Christmas, he effectively like dropped everything, was like, oh my God, they can do it. And then he went to Best Buy. I remember he told me this later. He went to Best Buy and found like the nerd and was like, listen, I've got some sons. What's a good video game console for them? What's one that like teenage boys like? And the dork at the counter, it was Call of Duty era, was like, get them an Xbox 360. So my dad was like, done. And for Christmas that year, we came downstairs. We were all staring at it, like baffled. Like it wasn't even like excitement. It was like my dad was standing behind this 360. It was the arcade edition with no memory. And he's just like, look at that. Get one of these now. I was like, all right. And then I think I bought myself an NES from a retro store a little after that because I was like, well, if we can have them around.
Yeah. You can stop like sneaking in contraband and you can play some real games like Castlevania 1.
Oh, well,
Castlevania 2.
You know what the first game was that I played on that Xbox 360? I went out and I bought a copy of the first Castlevania Lords of Shadow, which came with a download code for Symphony of the Night. And I played all of Symphony of the Night on the Xbox 360.
Yeah. Another fantastic game. And, I would kill for any Castlevania right now. And they just announced one, like, actually last week. So
Did they? I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it's the guys who made Dead Cells. They're making a new Castlevania.
Dead Cells is good, isn't it?
Yeah, it rules.
Oh, well, that's excellent news, because I don't want another Lords of Shadow 2. That made me upset.
I don't want it to be Lords of Shadow. It reminds me of, like, the second Prince of Persia game after the original one, Sands of Time. Not the original one. Like, I know there's the reboot, guys.
Yes, it was very God of War era. Early God of War, that is.
But it's like, hey, at least we were making things back then. At least Konami was making things back then. But yeah, Symphony of the Night, great game.
Yeah, absolute banger of a game.
What have you been playing lately?
So lately, I have been, to just continue the absolute pattern that I am laying out here for myself. I've been playing the remakes of Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3, the HD re-releases on on Switch, on my Switch 2, I guess. But I've beaten 3, the remake of 3 and the remake of 1. I'm presently in the tail end of the remake of 2. I'm a big Dragon Quest guy, which was an interesting segue from playing Pokemon as a kid. Like, Pokemon was my first game, and then this neighbor kid had a game called Dragon Warrior, where he was catching monsters and making them fight. It was a copy of Dragon Warrior Monsters, but he just called it Dragon Warrior. So I wanted that. So I went out and I accidentally bought Dragon Warrior 3 for the Game Boy Color. And it wasn't Dragon Warrior Monsters. So I was like, I bought the wrong one, and I never went back and played it. But I was excited to revisit it now because that entire franchise, I'll get into it more later, like really grew on me. But I've been really happy with the remakes, despite them like deviating a little bit from Akira Toriyama's art style now that he's passed away. They're very faithful sort of visual reimaginings, and they stay true to the original, NES and Game Boy releases, while simultaneously adding stuff that's more charming and, the usual fanfare, quality of life upgrades, stuff like that.
Yeah. I know that some people, and we'll get into this a little bit when we talk about today's game, there are some people that feel strongly about the ways the HD 2D stuff is good, but also the ways that it may have gone too far in a few places.
Yes.
Invoking George Lucas intentionally with his going back to his own children. I understand like the tension between that. And I think last week, one of the Dragon Quest producers were getting a lot of flack for saying like, well, with 7, because the remake of 7 just came out, this is like part of game preservation. Now people can play 7 again. And people are like, no, we fucking can't. This is different. And that's true. I do think that like we should allow space for somebody to play the original 7 if they so choose to.
I agree, but this is very specific. As a person who is currently playing through the original 7 on the PS1, this game needed an HD remake. It takes so long to do anything in the original. Like, I completely agree with you, but at the same time, too far in a few places is right. But that 7, I'm like, I wish I was playing that one instead of the PS1 version.
Yeah, I mean, you got to set up some hotkeys to fast forward things a little bit there. So
yeah, it's like a 600-hour RPG. It's ridiculous.
There was somebody who posted something online a few days ago saying like, man, I wish Skyrim was like 4 times bigger, and like the solution for that would be to make the game like the character walk 4 times slower. And I guess that game came out called Dragon Quest 7.
Yeah, that's Dragon Quest 7 in a nutshell, honestly.
Yeah. And hey, I hear it's one of the best games of all time, but also like if you were playing it live on the PlayStation 1 at the time, it's like this is the only game you can play for the rest of your life. Well, hey, and that's the thing. I'm still fairly new to Dragon Quest overall. I played and beat 9 myself, and I watched my older brother play 8 on the PlayStation 2 back in the day, and instantly fell in love with it because we were a Dragon Ball household.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, of course I'm going to absorb, hey, that's Gohan. Hey, that's Trunks. Hey, that's somehow Piccolo.
I know these characters, yeah.
It's like if these people were actually actors and they're just being recast into different things.
Yeah, that's how I usually look at it too. I'm a huge Dragon Quest guy now, and honestly, I'm going to stop. I should probably just put a period at the end of that sentence. I think I've played all of the original series as much as I can, since 10 was never localized, but it's pretty much got no like definitive misses, I don't think.
Yeah, I would say it's like by nature of its design, this thing where because Dragon Warrior was the thing that a lot of people's first game, a lot of people's first RPG even. And there's like a sort of like expected level of consistency that comes with that. Whereas like with Final Fantasy, their philosophy seems to be, we're doing something different with this one. We are making each entry a distinct entry. Dragon Quest does a lot of mechanically interesting things in a lot of their games. I'm really excited to play through 5 because I hear that they do so much.
Don't even get me started, brother. I love 5.
Yeah. What is your favorite Dragon Quest?
See, that's tough. But I do think that it is, just as a preface, in case anyone has real hard opinions on this, or is another Dragon Quest guy listening, I've played all of them at this point.
Except 10.
Except 10, because that's an MMO that only exists in Japan. I think my favorites are 4 and 5. I want to get into why I like 4 after we talk about Live a Live, because there is direct correlation there. And I think it's 4 and 5, I think, are the best ones in my opinion. Just story-wise, they're great. The DS remakes, it's a lot of that like sort of small quality of life upgrades. And it's, I think Dragon Quest as a whole, the whole series is sort of the don't fix what's not broken about JRPGs franchise. Like, you can build upon stuff. You don't have to like rip it up from the ground up every time. So I think what makes each game unique is they sort of take the topical part, like the seasoning on top is what they make different with it every time, whether it be like the amount of time that plays, how the narrative unfolds, gimmicks with the parties, that kind of thing. But at the core, it's like you can pick up any Dragon Quest and have a pretty good time. It's just that sometimes the seasoning makes you love it, and then sometimes the seasoning is Dragon Quest VII, where it makes everything take 2 or 3 hours longer than it needs to. And I wish that it didn't have so much paprika on top. That's too much seasoning, buddy. We got to get back to the RPG part.
I know a guy who played the entire game on 3x speed, so maybe there's just maybe
That's
sometimes
probably the way to do it, honestly. Like, great game, but I'm like, oh my god, everything takes so long.
yeah, it gets to a point, right? But like from what I hear, like I think Dragon Quest is one of those, like for the most part, everybody can be insane about anything if they choose to be. Is there's no real like bad answer. I think it's one of those like I understand why any game would be somebody's favorite versus like I don't know, some more out there series that definitely have some polarizing entries, like the Zelda games. That's a whole like
Yeah,
them's fighting words.
no, I completely agree.
I think some guy going, my favorite is Dragon Quest Monster Joker on the DS, and it's like,
I would swing on him. That's not even the best Dragon Warrior monsters. No, get out of here.
I think that was technically the first Dragon Quest game I ever played because I got it because the guy looked like Trunks.
He does look like Trunks, and I will say, if you start with Joker, you can only go up from there. So it's good to start with Joker.
Yeah, it wasn't the most intuitive to play experience. This is a story for a lot of RPGs in my life. I wanted to love them so much, but I did hit a wall with most of them for some reason because I wasn't smart enough to think about like these were probably meant to be played with a guide or expecting you to access a guide in some place somewhere.
Or even have like the pre-existing knowledge from earlier entries in the game. I feel like that's a big one these days.
Yeah, that I don't think Dragon Quest Monster ever onboarded me with anything. I was just like, "That's Trunks. I'm Trunks now."
Yeah.
And it looked like it was probably one of the better looking DS games overall too. I was impressed by that.
Yeah, graphically it's very nice.
I'm simple. I can see Dragon Ball on my little DS. I'm going to play it. What are some other JRPGs that mean a lot to you? JRPG for listeners means Jimmy RPG.
Yeah, James Ronald per gallon. Some big ones for me. I mean, as previously stated for the past 20 minutes, Dragon Quest is a huge one for me, and that was a segue from Pokemon. I was a huge Pokemon guy. I loved the franchise. I'm talking about like it's dead. I loved the franchise. It's the only franchise that's ever been like a core foundation thing that I loved, grew up with. First video game I ever played that I actually dropped completely the first time I played one and I didn't like it.
Guy told me one time, don't let yourself get attached to anything you are not willing to walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner.
Black and White and Black and White 2, if those were one game, I would say that they were like hands down the best ones. I love like Monster Collects as a broad stroke. I feel like it's just such a fun genre. I'm a guy that loves seeing a new little bastard on my screen every so often. So I love when Black and White came out and they're like, hey, 158 new Pokemon are dropping, and you're not going to see any new ones until after you beat the game.
Yeah.
I made the conscious decision to not look at any of the Pokemon except the starters, and I had the time of my life. And then X and Y dropped, and I was like, okay, everything looks like phone graphics now. We've lost the 2D charm, and there were like 60 new Pokemon, so I just stopped playing it. But Pokemon, I think, was very formative in that it introduced me to Monster Collects because, that introduced me to Dragon Quest Monsters, and then Dragon Quest. It also introduced me to like weird offshoot stuff like Robopon. I don't know if you've heard of Robopon.
Heard of it.
The first one on Game Boy is insane looking because it's got extra space in the top of the cartridge for a AAA battery because they weren't smart enough to figure out how to make it save without having a AAA battery in the Game Boy cartridge.
Holy shit, this looks just the fuck like Pokemon.
No, it literally is like basically plagiarism. You throw magnets at robots that you find in the woods to catch them.
No, it's the same user interface and everything.
Yes, no. The first one is legitimate plagiarism. However, there was a sequel to that released on the Game Boy Advanced that it deviated massively, obviously, probably for legal reasons. But those are fun. It's very derivative of Pokemon. You like upgrade the Pokemon instead of them evolving. But getting into Pokemon also led me into getting into stuff like Telefang, which translates to Shin Megami Tensei. So now I'm playing stuff like Persona. Like it sort of opened the pipeline, I guess, to more stuff that just had even like a modicum of that sort of element, like catching a little guy or finding a new little guy or something with a million enemies in it. Like I'd love that. And I think because of that, Shin Megami Tensei, that whole franchise is another big one for me. it was like a foundational thing for me when I met my best friend in high school. He's still my best friend today. I think we met like junior high, but he was like one of those guys that was more in the know about Japanese RPGs. So I was like, I like Pokemon. He's like, Pokemon? You want to play the grown-up version? It's called Shin Megami Tensei, and I've got a fan translation of it on my my computer. It's for Super Nintendo. And because of that, it's just like, even though I don't play Pokemon anymore, I'm like completely removed from the franchise. It did introduce me to all the other foundational stuff that I love, like Dragon Quest, SMT, even stuff like Earthbound. It just sort of like opened the door for like Nintendo RPGs. That's the sort of genre that I like.
Yeah, you like your John RPGs.
Yeah, that's what the J stands for. Mother 3 is another big one. Before I forget, everybody play Mother 3 if you haven't. I'm telling you this at gunpoint. It's so good.
I've been held at gunpoint since I started doing when I did the Earthbound episode 4 years ago. So like I have to play it. You like this genre so much that you seek out like fan translations for stuff that hasn't been officially localized. Any others that come to mind besides the Mother series and Shin Megami Tensei?
I mean, to get into the meat of the episode here in a second, one of the first fan translations I ever played was Live a Live.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I played it, and I have to credit a lot of the fan translation stuff to my best friend Ryan, because he was sort of the weeb that was on, like pre-Reddit 4chan, which sounds scary to a lot of listeners, but before Reddit existed, 4chan was just Reddit. And then everybody nice left and went to Reddit. So it's just evil now. But like the video games board on 4chan is how you would find out about these weird things. I didn't know what 4chan was. He did. And he would find these games that were getting translated. He was one of the guys that would call Nintendo and ask them if they were localizing Mother 3 when it came out in Japan. That was like a real thing, like a real phone campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever heard of that idiocy.
No, I heard of it.
But it was funny.
Come on, Reggie, give us Mother 3! How about this instead?
I didn't play like every single thing that had those fan translations. Like a big one I missed out on was what is it? Emerald Dragon, I think. There's a few Super Nintendo RPGs that might have even had outright proper translations that's never gotten localized. But I did play a very good fan translation of Earthbound 0, aka Mother 1.
Earthbound Beginnings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we have it now on Switch, like it exists. But that was an interesting era, was downloading these ROMs from these websites and then having an emulator on your computer and having to run a patch. It's sort of, it must sound antiquated and alien to probably your younger listeners.
A thing that like kind of gets lost with like what the older Gen Z and young millennial or not young millennial, like older millennials, older Gen Z, I don't know, younger millennial, older Gen Z people who like did grow up around pewter. But computer wasn't also in your hand. So
yes,
you got to know the machine, and it wasn't just something that sort of ran itself and
yes.
doing things like, okay, this file goes into this thing. It's just following directions at the end of the day. It's like cooking. You go into Linux, and I am playing with Linux right now because my
that's
Steam
fun.
It's a thing where I'm sick of Windows. Fuck Microsoft for every reason under the sun. But I would rather struggle with Linux and make it like a knowledge barrier that I'm dealing with versus like this company just doesn't want you to use your computer problem. So
yeah, they're like, what if we make it so hard that you have to rely on our AI? Like, I'm going to hit you with a hammer. How about that?
I'm not dealing with like a fake problem. I have enough fake problems in my real life. I have to go to the bank to use my computer. What is this? Here with Linux, it's like, yes, it's hard, and I'm not going to be an obnoxious Linux guy, but it is just nice to be like, oh, it's like using the computer in 1998 or whatever, where you actually just, it's not invasive at all. So, hey, might be worth checking out, guys. It's not scary anymore. Linux isn't scary anymore.
I'm excited. I didn't even know Linux was still a thing. I'm glad that we still have it.
It's open source, and apparently the Steam Deck depends on it. So
that rocks.
And basically anything that doesn't have like kernel anti-cheat in it can run on it. So there you go. But like the whole point of me talking about that is like I have been dealing a lot of like modifications to video games. I've been playing like randomizers for the Zelda series, or I mean, you can do official Nuzlocke stuff to your Pokemon or whatever. It's nice to be able to see what people are able to provide to give a meaningful experience to fellow insane people. I don't know what else to say.
It's a good way to put it. Fellow insane people. The world's your oyster now. It used to be hard to have an oyster back in our day. Back in my day, I guess. I'm grandpa.
Yeah. This is Uncast. So we've talked about the Shin Megami Tensei series. We talked about like all these wonderful games. Are there any other like major John Coded Games you just want to give a shout out to before we go into the main event here?
Well, I guess I have been sort of leaning into one of the two genres that I like. I'm mostly a single player boy, but briefly stated that I played Symphony of the Night. I love tough side scrolling Metroidvania type things. I love Blasphemous. I love Hollow Knight. I love classic Metroids, that kind of thing. Very formative for my ability to be patient with difficulty, I think, which translates well when some RPGs, some JRPGs are not meant to be fun unless you grind. You don't get to just win a lot of the time. So one-player games that test your patience are probably the best way to put it. But I love me a side-scrolling dungeon crawling adventure as well.
Yeah. How do you feel about the Dark Cloud series? You ever play those?
You know, Dark Cloud was one of those mystical games that I heard about on the playground and saw very little of and have been meaning to try to visit on my own. I haven't gotten around to it.
It is a dungeon crawling, town building RPG. I feel like it hits all the buttons for you.
Yeah, I want to try it real bad. I have fond memories of a kid that lives 2 neighborhoods over, and I'd bike to his house and I would see him play it for like 20 minutes before we biked to the park or went out to play tennis or whatever kids did back in the 1910s.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always enamored with it because it just seemed so weird, and I loved anything that even looked a little bit anime-y back then. But thank you for reminding me that existed, because I will probably go buy a copy of that and play it on my PS2.
That's the thing. I was playing it. They put them on like the PlayStation Network thing, and
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's like you can play Dark Cloud and Dark Cloud 2 on like your PlayStation 4 and 5 now.
That's sick.
I've been playing some Dark Cloud because around the winter I always like to just curl up with a 7 out of 10 game. And
Oh yeah, that's the way to do it.
I haven't played Dark Cloud 2 yet. As I understand it, it like really refines a lot of the stuff going on in Dark Cloud 1. But there's like such a simple, lovely beauty to that game. It's like cozy aesthetic. It could deal. I could stand to have a few more songs in it, but it is a great podcast game to grind away while you level up your stuff and try and grind to get the last material you need to build your town. It's very ambitious. We should have a million games like this. There should be like a million Dark Cloud likes. I guess
Or at
Rune
least
Factory,
one more.
I don't know.
Yeah, Rune Factory's pretty close. That's a little bit more Harvest Moon coded, isn't it?
It's like Rune Factory is kind of like there are RPG-esque elements depending on which one you play, and there is like the town, but it's like you're dungeon crawling and you're like cultivating your town. But like, I don't know, like I really love just the aesthetic of like that early PS2 where it's like games that look like Dark Cloud, things that look like the PS2 Harvest Moons.
Oh yeah.
They aren't quite cartoons. They're just this like almost liminal space where like there's no real horizon. It's just the space you're in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super primitive. Sort of like we have just figured out how to make 3D stuff look good. It's like it's better than N64, but it's it doesn't look like a movie yet.
Yeah, it's like flattering angles and a lot of loading screens.
Yes.
And that's intention, right? It's the thing that a lot of these over-the-shoulder remakes miss out on is like the authorship happening when they present certain things to you. The loading screens certainly are annoying, but the idea that like, oh, you're supposed to sort of like view the scene from this angle, or you're supposed to like just take in this area of focus, it's become a lost art. And I'm glad that there's still like, I think we need to get shittier. I think things need to get a little bit shittier, and not in the industry, but I think we just need to scale down.
Do some demakes. Is that what they're called? Like those people that take Bloodborne and make it look like it's running on the N64. Have you ever seen those things?
Yeah, like Bloodborne cart.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, like that's probably what's going to be saving the industry is just like the independent people doing what they can when everything else is just being torn apart at the seams. But we need to appreciate the artfulness of the decisions that were made at a time where everyone's like, oh, it's old and bad, which is, I thought those were fake. I thought those were fake people. I didn't think that there were still, oh, it's old and bad people in big 2026, but it is prominent.
Yeah, no, I'm on the exact same page as you. There's nothing that I appreciate more than seeing like how far you can go with the limitations of what you can do. And I think we have so much that we can do now that we have, it's like you said, you've lost that sort of authorship where it's like you have to figure out what you can do with what you have versus, making everything look perfect and insane and auto-generating graphics and what have you.
Yeah, I've always said on this podcast, like all art is a struggle against limitations. And I found an even better Orson Welles quote because it's Orson Welles.
Love that guy.
The enemy of art is the absence of limitations.
That's my dude.
Yeah, that's where it is. I think we got caught up in what we can do that we get stuck in like what's good though? What's good? Which producers and executives all getting their hands in the pie and destroying. Fuck Sony. That's the end of my thought. Fuck Sony.
You know what? I agree with that. Yeah. Get his ass.
Yeah, no. They got rid of Blue Point, the people that like reliably put out like re-releases of things. But because like now, like, oh well, we can just pay John, not you, John.
Some evil John.
We could pay any Joe Schmo to re-release some PlayStation 2 game only 8 people care about, and then like,
interesting.
I don't know. It's dire out there. Play Dark Cloud though. I think that's really what we're at. Play Dark Cloud.
Oh yeah.
John, do you subscribe to the idea that like a 7 out of 10 can be better than like a masterpiece sometimes?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, I think that goes for almost every form of media, not even necessarily just video games. Something that is, I think, visibly flawed shows that there was an effort in it being made, and I respect that a lot. That's something I like about old comics and old movies. Is it's not necessarily the product being perfect. Like if the product is perfect, like if you sit me down and I watch Seven Samurai, I'm going to go, yes, excellent, nothing went wrong. But also, if you sit me down to watch, trying to think of my favorite 7 out of 10 movie. Yeah, you know, a 7 out of 10 movie that everybody likes, just like Scott Pilgrim, like some Edgar Wright thing, where it's like, it's not perfect, but you can see that effort is being made, ideas are there. And like, I think seeing and understanding the ideas being executed and the intent gives you a better relationship with the person that has made it. And I think that inherently that makes for a better experience because you are, to bring it back around to the authorship you brought up a third time, the third trick here. I think that's a very large part of it. So yeah, I would 100% agree and write a thesis paper on why I think a 7 out of 10 is more enjoyable than 10 most of the time.
Yeah, I'd rather you be like an ambitious artist that like tries to push your own boundaries. Like a lot of like some of the most moving pieces of music I've ever heard are from people that don't necessarily know how to sing, but they are just feeling every like a bit of emotion. Like the magnetic fields will just like absolutely crush your heart, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't dismiss the fact that like, oh yeah, being an actual like savant in your field is meaningless. The thing with me is I believe everybody has a song in their heart to sing. As long as you're singing an authentic song, that matters. And I think a lot of like the respect with like a messy 7 out of 10 is like, you went for it. You went for it. And you didn't try and play it safe because you were worried about something that shouldn't matter.
Right. And nobody can make that 7 except the person that made that 7. And I think that's another big one. I think this is totally like a tangent at this point, but like a quote from Jack Kirby, the Marvel and DC artist who is responsible for pretty much all the Marvel universe existing.
I don't think I've heard of him.
Jack Kirby?
No, I've never heard of that guy. I'm joking.
I was about to be like, I'll kill you.
I did a whole Jack Kirby episode.
Oh, that rocks. I didn't know that. But yeah, Jack Kirby talks at one point about like, I think someone asked him like, do you think you're the greatest artist of all time? Like, do you think you're one of the best to ever do it? And he sort of says like, no, I don't think I'm the best to ever do it, but I'm the only one that can do it like me. And I think that's more important. Like, I think as an example, he brought up the guy that made Dick Tracy, the old newspaper strip. He's like, you look at Dick Tracy, that's not the best anatomy. That's not the best drawing. That's not the best thing you've ever seen. But there was only one guy on earth who was going to make Dick Tracy. And it was this guy, like the only person that's going to make it, you know, exactly.
And Warren Beatty, the only one allowed to make Dick Tracy.
Yeah, the only one. But no, it's, you know, it's exactly what you just said. Everybody's got a song to sing. And I strongly believe that they are also the only person that can do it. So I always respect a solid 7 out of 10 because it's like you can see where the person making it fell short, but still tried.
Yeah, that's art. I mean, this kind of ties into like the game we're going to talk about. I don't think it does everything it does perfectly, but how many other games can you say feels exactly like this that didn't come out after it?
Right. Like I chased the high that I felt after I beat Live a Live for the first time.
Yeah. So let's talk about this game. Before we get into it, though, how the fuck do you pronounce this thing?
I have recently been informed by someone on the internet that you are supposed to call it Live Alive.
Mm-hmm.
But that sounds weird to me because I've been saying Live a Live for the better part of 15 years. And I always thought that like there was a secret way to pronounce it correctly because it's like the whole title font. I feel like at some point it's like mirrored where it's Live and then A, but then they just flip the one half of the A and the Live. So it's like evil backwards. It's like it's supposed to, like, I think the title is supposed to reflect that as long as you are alive, like evil is produced or something like that. Like, I think there's weird symbolism with the title, but it doesn't make sense as far as words go. It's just supposed to be like a weird palindrome that live a evil sounds nuts. But I think it's I think you're supposed to say live alive, but I'm still going to say live alive.
Based on like what the Japanese katakana says, you're supposed to sort of say it as it's pronounced the same on both words. For me, I thought like, oh, live alive, with like it playing with like the two different versions of like that definition. Like, oh, there's to live and survive, and then live, like what is happening in the present moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And no, it's let's just say that like maybe what we call this is like its own form of like artistic interpretation as soon as it's been taken away from the author.
Yeah, it's a great start as far as selling people and playing the game is, how do you say it? And then I say, I don't know, but I love it.
Yeah. So if you want to be pedantic, listener, and you're welcome to be, what would life be if we did not have a pedantic person in it once in a while? We all want to be it once in a while. And also like everybody else's pedantic is wrong and bad. But when I'm pedantic, it's great and good. But listener, we are aware that officially it is live alive. But if we slip up once in a while, that's okay.
I'm going to call it live alive the whole time, and you guys got to get mad at me for that. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna switch sometimes, but I am trying to live. I'm trying to live life
alive
right now. Let people live, man. Let people
Let
live.
me live alive.
Yeah. I'm gonna live myself. All right.
Ooh.
Let's talk about this game.
Yes.
This is going to be an interesting one to talk about because there are two different versions of Live Alive. The original version, released exclusively in Japan, was developed and published by Square and released on a Super Famicom in 1994. Live Alive would not be released internationally until 2022 when it was remade in an HD 2D style that blends sprite art with 3D graphics. We'll talk about the remake more in the next segment. For now, let's talk about how the original version was made. When you look at the names of the people involved in the development of Live Alive, it looks like one of those movies or shows that star a bunch of actors right before they take off and become super famous. I'm thinking about like The Outsiders, or Dazed and Confused, or Freaks and Geeks, or Wet Hot American Summer. Live Alive was directed by Takashi Tokita. Both he and battle director Nobuyuki Inoue share scenario writer credit. And though this was the first game Tokita directed, he already had a pretty rich background in game development. Tokita started at Square doing graphic design and sound effects for the first 3 Final Fantasy games before becoming the lead designer and co-writer of Final Fantasy IV. Following his work on Live Alive, Tokita would go on to co-direct and co-write Chrono Trigger. He would also be the director and co-writer of Parasite Eve. But before they got there, they started here in Live Alive, or Live Alive, or whatever it is.
Definitely tracks that they went together on. It's the same director that did Chrono Trigger?
Yep, same director.
That makes sense, because I always, whenever I try to sell people on Live Alive / Live Alive, I sort of say that it is the other side of the same coin as Chrono Trigger. And I am the only person on Earth that likes that side of the coin better.
Well, let's talk about that then. Nobuyuki Inoue, who as we mentioned was Live Alive's other co-writer, as well as its battle director, would go on to work as a planner on Final Fantasy Tactics, and later on be the director of a little game called Mother 3. Fumiaki Fukaya was the game's lead programmer. Teruaki Sugawara served as the game's sound designer. This was the first video game he ever worked on, and it would be far from the last. He would be credited as the sound engineer on Super Mario RPG, and later go on to do sound editing, dialogue editing, and voice direction work to this very day. You'll see his name pop up in the credits of games like Final Fantasy IX, 10, 10-2, 13, and recently as voice director for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Live Alive's music was composed by Yoko Shimomura. This was Shimomura's first project as a composer for Square. She previously worked at Capcom, but wanted to make the move because she was interested in writing more classical-style music for fantasy games. She has since gone on to compose games like Super Mario RPG, Legend of Mana, Parasite Eve, and is now the principal composer for the Kingdom Hearts franchise, as well as the Mario and Luigi series. And for my money, maybe my favorite video game composer personally.
She does rip. I actually didn't tie all that together until you had told me that at some point. 90% of the games that you just listed, and I have always clocked the music as being exceptional in them. I love them. I still listen to the Super Mario RPG Mushroom Forest music when I'm going for a walk sometimes. She's just good.
Yeah, no, it's like the day I like put together like it sounds like some like Kingdom Hearts ass, like, oh, I'm in Cinderella's, or like not Cinderella, I'm in like the Alice in Wonderland world in Kingdom Hearts. It's like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Like boom, 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 boom. She loves that little like kind of like low, like a bass or like a trumpet tuba kind of thing going on in the background, a little whimsy and some darkness within it.
Mm-hmm.
It's bouncy dread. I love the bouncy dread.
It's like it's good atmospheric music for games like this.
It's like you're being haunted by Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
It's a great vibe, and then also like some absolutely moving and emotionally crushing stuff. Tetsuya Nomura's name also pops up in the credits here. Nomura would go on to be the director of the Kingdom Hearts franchise, but here he receives credit for his contributions in translating the Tosa dialect spoken by a major character in one of the game's chapters. And speaking of chapters, let's talk about Live Alive's story a little bit. Live Alive's story follows different characters at different points in history. From the beginning, you are able to choose from 7 different time periods that can be played in any order. These chapters broadly share the same gameplay. There's an overworld, and then there's an enemy encounter loop like a standard RPG. Combat is done on a 7x7 grid with both the player and enemy able to move around and deliver attacks that deal damage if the target stays within its area of effect. This results in you having to balance defensive and offensive play. Different moves often take different amounts of time to charge, and certain attacks can even make it so status conditions can be imbued in the tiles on the battlefield, like healing or elemental damage. Every chapter uses the same combat system, but the frequency of combat and what initiates it often varies. One chapter has random encounters. Others have enemies in the overworld you have to make contact with to initiate combat, and some only initiate combat during story-specific moments. Gameplay and time periods aren't the only thing that differ between chapters. To add to the omnibus style of storytelling, various manga artists were brought on, each providing their own character designs to one of the worlds in the game. Controversial far-right manga artist Yoshinori Kobayashi, unfortunately, but appropriately, does the art for the prehistory chapter set in caveman times. The story, which features no dialogue because its setting predates language, follows a young cave boy named Pogo and his gorilla friend who are exiled after rescuing and protecting Baru, a girl who is to be sacrificed to Odo, the last surviving T-Rex that a rival tribe worships as a god. Pogo and friends must work to keep Baru safe and end the violence between the tribes. This chapter was inspired by the anime First Human Geatrice, which also follows a cave boy and his gorilla friend. Yumi Tamura, the creator of manga like Basara and Seven Seeds, designed the characters in a distant future chapter. This chapter is set on a space freighter called the Cogito Ergo Sum, which could mean anything, where you play as Cube, a spherical robot on roller skates built by one of the ship's crewmen. It is almost the complete inverse of the prehistory chapter, being almost entirely devoid of combat and heavy on story and dialogue. As Cube, you talk with the crew and retrieve items in this vast ship while avoiding a behemoth-like beast that's been set loose in it. Alien and 2001: A Space Odyssey were major inspirations for the story. Yoshihide Fujiwara, illustrator for the martial arts manga Kenji, provided the character designs for the Imperial China chapter. This one follows an aging Shifu seeking to pass on his Earth and Heart Kung Fu technique. As the Shifu, you find and train 3 potential successors, Lei, Jun, and Hong, each of whom are modeled after characters from Journey to the West, as well as real-life famous martial artists. Osamu Ishiwata provided the art for the Wild West chapter. This one follows a wandering gunslinger known as the Sundown Kid, working with the residents of a town to protect them from a gang of outlaws called the Crazy Bunch. A large portion of this chapter has you running around town finding items to improvise traps with. The Sundown Kid is modeled after the spaghetti western character The Man with No Name from Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy. The present day chapter is a tournament arc, complete with a Street Fighter aesthetic. This chapter has no overworld and its story is told between combat scenarios. The story follows Masaru Takahara as he takes on fighters from around the world to acquire their techniques and respect, while striving to be the world's greatest warrior. The character designs were provided by Ryuji Minigawa, illustrator for manga like Spriggan and Project Arms. The near future chapter follows Akira, a delinquent orphan with psychic powers. This story is an amalgamation of different genres popular in Japan, including tokusatsu series like Kamen Rider and mecha anime like Mazinger Z. Kazuhiko Shimamoto, writer of Blazing Transfer Student, the manga adaptation of Kamen Rider Zi-O, as well as one of the character designers for Mobile Fighter G Gundam, did the character design work for this chapter. Gosho Aoyama, the creator of Case Closed, known in Japan as Detective Conan, was the artist for the Twilight of Edo Japan chapter, in which you play as the shinobi Oboromaru of the Enma clan. As the shinobi, you infiltrate the forest of the Ode clan to rescue a prisoner vital to Japan's future. The player character can use stealth to avoid lethally killing adversaries they may encounter. But how do these stories intersect? And what is the point of its structure? I guess you'll have to play to find out. Shenanigans ensue across history. So the Japanese-only release, the original game, Live Alive, was released in 1994 on the Super Famicom. Other games people were playing in 1994 included Final Fantasy VI, Demon's Crest, Donkey Kong Country, Sonic 3, Sonic & Knuckles, Super Metroid.
It's a heavy year.
Very heavy. Great year. Awesome year. And I try to find games specifically that released in both North America and in Japan in 1994. So there was some overlap. But if you were in one of those two regions of the world, you were playing the same game at the same time. So at least we had that. It was also the year of the North American release of Breath of Fire, which I previously covered on the show with Chelsea Connor. I mentioned this because even though it was a Capcom developed game, it was localized by Squaresoft in the United States, and also features music, I think at least one song by Yoko Shimomura, pre-transition to Square. And then a remake of Live Alive was released internationally for the Nintendo Switch originally in 2022. Other remakes, remasters, and re-releases specifically from Square Enix in 2022 include Final Fantasy VI, again with the Pixel remaster. So 1994, 2022, you could play a brand new Final Fantasy VI. Front Mission First, remake. Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers edition. Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII reunion. Tactics Ogre, reborn. Romancing SaGa, minstrel song. Why would they call it that? This is... The Romancing SaGa Minstrel Song is a remaster of the PS2 remake of the 1992 Japan-only Super Famicom game, Romancing SaGa. What a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Have you played any of these games I mentioned?
You know what? Not only have I played Romancing SaGa, I own the remake because that was one of the games I purchased specifically while chasing the high of Live a Live when I had just finished playing the emulated version of it when I was younger. The PS2 version of Romancing SaGa Minstrel Song was still around. And that is, I think that's very close in nature to what I consider like a good successor to Live Alive.
Yeah, no, I think the original Romancing SaGa predates this fucking game. For
our game.
Today's game came out in 1994. The original Romancing SaGa came out in 1992. And John, I was also one of the dozens of Americans that owned Romancing SaGa on the PS2.
Whoa! Awesome.
Listeners, again, there's no video feed, but I just held up the disc for Romancing SaGa on the PlayStation 2. It was not called Minstrel Song in the United States because it reminds me of that tragedy. Why the fuck would they ever name a game that?
It reminds me of that tragedy.
Yeah, no, for some reason, Christmas 2005, I don't remember why. Did I ask for this, or did my older brother, who was really into, was playing every Japanese developed RPG under the sun? I'm talking about anything that you get your hands on either the GameCube or the PS2 was being played, right? So he was like, I don't know. He's like, put Romancing SaGa on your Christmas list. And I'm like, okay. And then I never beat it.
Yeah, it's long and difficult, but I actually did beat it. And it's interesting because I've wondered about it because I did know it was a remake, and you might have this information. The PS2 version, one of the things that I liked about it was that you got to pick a main character and start with them and sort of play through the campaign from a different perspective. You have 8 characters to pick through, or however many, and you play through their narrative while meeting the other characters who you could be playing as the main character throughout the game. And then you sort of build your party based on where you go, who you happen to bump into before you fight the last boss. But I was always curious if that element existed in the Super Nintendo version, because that seems kind of like a lot for a Super Nintendo game, and I don't know if that's in there.
Yeah. From what I understand, the way the Romancing SaGa works differs in the sense that differs from Live Alive, because Live Alive has discrete campaigns for each and every single one of its principal players, right?
Chapters. Mm.
And Romancing SaGa kind of has intersecting points in which people join up and do things together. And
yeah,
I haven't played the Super Famicom version of Romancing SaGa to verify whether or not that's true, but I think they were doing it, but just at a smaller scale is what I would assume. They didn't have PS2 graphics. I think
they did localize it, I think, at some point on Switch, so we can go find out.
Yeah. You can go find out. That's a long one, but
I'm not going to go find out.
From what I understand, they all have everybody has their own distinct intro, and then the middles largely are the same, and then they're divergent.
Yeah, it's similar missions in the PS2 version anyway. It's similar. There's it's sort of Dragon Quest coded, sort of old school RPG coded, where it's every place that you go to has its own little arc that you can choose to do or not do. But it's like you said, everyone has their own intro and a different reason to fight the last boss. That's kind of the long and short of it.
Yeah. And it's the thing that I never got was you can't level up. What the heck is going on here?
Yeah, just your stats level up.
Yeah, just your stats level up, which is it's contingent on certain behavior and actions that you do during the battle, right?
Yes. That was a staple in the Saga franchise, I think. That was their whole shtick.
Yeah. Which is I think that's pretty novel. I think that finding different ways to implement level up systems and how they all work. I think that's like really something I hang on to. It's why I find Symphony of the Night so interesting. I have a PS2 emulator on my Steam Deck right now, and I just on a lark put on Budokai 3, and I totally forgot that if you play Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3, there's a campaign and you can level up your character as you just beat the shit out of people.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you don't have to do that, but I'm fascinated by the choice to do it. Yeah, you can also level up your character, Snowboarder and SSX Tricky. I was like, oh yeah, everything was about leveling up back then.
Yeah, it kept you going.
Yeah, bring that back. I prefer that to skill trees.
Me too.
Yeah, no, stat go up. But yeah, this is not an episode on Romancing SaGa. This is about Live Alive.
Live Alive.
So let's live in this world a little bit here. Let's go back in time a little bit. What was your first encounter with this game, John?
My first encounter was, as previously stated, I think I gotta stop saying that. My first encounter was in either junior high or high school. It was the same friend that I had mentioned earlier who sort of introduced me to the concept of fan translations and this sort of like hipster superior nerd that went and found things that were secret and better. He had a Super Nintendo emulator on his computer, and he was telling me about this game. I think he had just grabbed a bunch of JRPGs that had fan translations and was playing through them, and I was hanging out with him one day, and we decided to play it together, and I was immediately enamored by the style and dialogue of the game. But despite how much I love this game, I've only played through it twice, and the first time was on a Super Nintendo emulator.
A Nintendo
and Emulato. It was a fan translation. I liked it so much that I never forgot about it. So when they announced that the remake was coming at that one Nintendo Direct, it was like, I felt like they had just looked directly out of the TV at me and been like, John, remember that one game that you played that no one knows what you're talking about? Mm-hmm. You're going to get to play it on your Switch in English now with voice acting. Merry Christmas for some reason. But that was my first encounter. Was I just had a friend that was a bigger nerd than me, and he was like, it felt like he was opening a tiny treasure chest. You want to see this?
Hey, check this out. You like 8 games? How does 8 games?
Sounds great.
So that was your first encounter with this game. It's like it's sort of like you played it, it sat in your brain, it just lived in your brain a little bit, and it decided to pop back up.
We loved it so much. I think it might have been his first playthrough too. At the time, we were trying to make video games. This might be a thing that sounds archaic now as well, but way back when, RPG Maker 2004 on Windows was like the coolest thing in the world if you knew how to use it. I'm a cartoonist now, but I was still drawing back then, and we sort of had this little pact where like he was learning how to do the programming and stuff, and I was writing stories. So we wanted to make an RPG, and we liked Live a Live so much that I almost want to Live Alive. Excuse me. We liked Live Alive, Live a Live so much that it kind of instigated us hanging out every day trying to make our own. Like we wanted to make our own characters, we wanted to make our own world, and have this sort of chapter-based RPG that we could put all the jokes that we liked from when we were playing through Live Alive, that sort of thing. It was one of those things where it's like huge impact for the amount of time that we actually played it. Like we quote it to this day, which is weird.
Yeah, there's guys, I'm doing the Brian Eno quote now. The first Velvet Underground album only sold 10,000 copies, but everyone who bought it for the band, Live Alive only sold 250,000 copies, but every single one of those people opened up RPG Maker, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that honestly, I'm pretty sure this is a thesis I have, but I don't know if you've ever listened to the last boss music in Live Alive, which is called Megalomania, and then listened to the last boss music in Undertale, which is called Megalovania, and realized that they are the same song. Toby Fox, known RPG Maker user, he clearly loved Live Alive. Like, he's one of those guys.
Yeah, no, it's the way Mother 2 and 3 specifically get a lot of the credit for being the progenitor. They're the mother of Undertale, but I think it's kind of overlooked that Live Alive is also just all over this thing.
Yeah, it really is.
Not just the music too. I just think like so much of like the philosophy underneath the game just kind of lines up with that, and this idea of this isn't really an RPG so much as an experience using the presentation of an RPG.
Mm-hmm.
The way that
That's a good way to
Undertale
put
and
it.
Deltarune really spend a lot of time not having combat sequences, but still maintains its presentation when you're doing game show bits. I had a lot of that happening to, like, I had a lot of realizations about like, oh, like this is where this stuff comes from. It's almost pretending to be an RPG. It's like putting on a disguise and being like, yeah, by me, I'm normal. I'm like Dragon Quest, and like it's like you're like Dragon Quest for 3 hours, man.
Yeah, I think Live Alive actually has some of those elements in it too.
That was what I was trying to say. Like Live
Oh,
is
yes.
yeah, like that trickery. Yeah, no, it's just like really clear in its DNA. But what about Live Alive resonates with you? What made you decide on this specific game as somebody who loves so many genre RPGs?
I think, how do I articulate this? There's a lot of games that I think are objectively better than Live Alive, and there are a lot of games that are objectively better than my favorite games. But there are very few games that do all the things that I specifically like. Like, I think it's very rare that you find a game that is catered to your taste to such a degree that that's how I felt about Live Alive, I guess, was everything about it had so much charisma. There's a lot of that sort of what we were talking about earlier, where it's like the 7 out of 10, but the authorship is there, where they're trying new and interesting things. It's got a sense of humor. It's got like very heartfelt writing. But I think the main reason it resonated with me is it gives you so much variety, and honestly, it just gives you so much in such a small package, I guess is the way to put it. Like, it feels like a highlight reel of everything I like, some things that I kind of like, but it's super digestible. I never feel like I'm fighting with the game. You know, it's a dream team of people that haven't popped off yet too, which we established earlier, where it's, you know, the director of Chrono Trigger, the composer of stuff like Kingdom Hearts. It's like the music is great, the writing is great, the visuals are great. Is the execution perfect? It's 1994, baby, of course not. But every single thing about it resonated with me. I was like, I'm a caveman for 2 hours. That was the best thing ever. And then I get to be a cowboy, and for the next hour and a half, that's the best thing ever. It stays fresh with what it has. Yeah, I could gush about how much I like this game for hours, and it's really just me saying the same thing over and over again, which is just, they just took a bunch of stuff that I like, smashed it all together in a meatloaf, and handed it to me.
Well, hey, that's the premise of the podcast, so you're in a good place.
They just took all the stuff that I don't like out. Something you might have noted in my earlier ramblings about how much I like JRPGs, I did not name any Final Fantasies, because I only like maybe 2 Final Fantasy games. I don't like most of them because
Kill that guy.
even the retro ones, and just throwing a little bit of shade, Chrono Trigger have the active time bar battle system, and I hate that so much. I cannot stand the loading bar instead of just using your speed stat to go in a certain order. That drives me nuts. However, Live Alive doesn't do the like turn order type thing and introduces a totally new system, but I don't feel like I have to frantically scramble through a menu, because I can turn the active time battle thing off and it will operate sort of, because you can turn the active time battle thing off in Final Fantasy to a degree, where it's like it loads and then it pauses when it's your turn to go, but then it still feels weird and you're sitting there awkwardly waiting for a loading bar to fill up. But in Live Alive, the way that the grid system is implemented, as opposed to just regular old turn-based stuff, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel the same, I guess. Like they managed to capture like all the stuff that I like while shaving off most of the stuff that drives me nuts of old RPGs.
Yeah. Like, I was about to like fight you a little bit there with like, it does kind of have the active time battle thing, and it's more of it's a half step into ATB, where every movement makes a bar go up. As I understand it, there are no bars in the Super Famicom version. That's a quality of life feature in the remake, that you can actually see your health bar and yours and the enemy's turn meter.
Yes.
But it is kind of beginner friendly. There's no frantic nature. There's a lot of strategy that goes into it, but every time you move a tile, it does advance every person on the field's active time battle thing.
Yeah.
But you can still just stand in place in perpetuity without anything advancing or progressing. But every move you make does it's half tactical RPG and half ATB game.
Yeah, it's not completely removed from the ATB, but they changed it to a degree where I don't like, as a person who hates ATBs, I don't feel like I'm playing one at all, because it's like these ticks move up, when you move. It's like you have to make these conscious decisions, but you are sort of aware of your decision making, as opposed to waiting for a bar to fill up and then scrambling to get to Giga Slash or what have you.
Yeah, what Final Fantasy games are you fond of? Just while we're here.
Oh, well, this is technically cheating, but Final Fantasy Tactics, come on now. That's that's it right there.
Yeah.
I like Final Fantasy Tactics, and weirdly enough, and this is sheer coincidence, and I almost laughed about it when you brought it up earlier, I actually like Final Fantasy IV an okay amount. Again, the battle system's not for me, but like I love the characters in 4. I think that's the only one that I played most of the way through before I got sick of it. But yeah, no, it's pretty much just those two.
No, it's great. And it does make sense that the designer of 4 works on this a little bit, because those sensibilities of like finding redemption through darkness is, I don't know, there's this big sweeping epic feel of Final Fantasy IV that I'm glad that was the first one I played, so I can really get into like what this series has been trying to do with making things feel big and grand and important, like every character being imbued with some amount of significance. Yes. And how that changes and impacts your dynamics in your party even. I just find it really, really cool. Like getting actually emotional when a party member is no longer able to be used is really, really made me understand why I love this genre so much, is that it is capable of doing so much, even if it is, turn-based and it is kind of fought in menus. I just think that is...
It's because you care about the characters. That's like the point.
Mm-hmm. These pixels matter to me, man. With Live Alive, it is still kind of a very singular experience, both in how you interact with it and in how it plays its narrative out, like you said, for better and worse in a lot of ways. As somebody who has played a bunch of weird games like the Mega Man Battle Network games, it's this is what I wanted to come back to. These games that are like kind of ATB, but are also real time action, like when you're kind of waiting for meters to fill up in the newer Final Fantasy games, right? Where you're just like, you can hit people over and over again, but you're waiting for your meter to fill up before you can actually choose an attack, because it's like the illusion of it's the illusion of it being different. It's like, all right, you gamers, you want to hit things, you want to move around and hit things. Well, you got to wait for the meter to fill up. Like the Xenoblade games do that.
Oh yeah.
The Mega Man Battle Network game has that, where it's like you can keep shooting until it's your next turn, I guess. All right. It's interesting to see this game do like a half step into that grid-based thing and also that turn-based thing, and make me panic a little bit, even though there is a bit of a strategy. Like it says, like it's not ATB panic. It's not like, oh, I have to pick the menu attack. It's like just like, oh, I need to get
out of the way. It's like I have to choose if I'm going to like stay in range to do an attack or step back and let that guy, like if he's charging a move, I've got to stop him. Like it's things you got to consider like that.
There's pacing to it. There's
it's almost a rhythm.
You have to move quickly and do things quickly. Otherwise you will get punished severely. Especially in the remake, where the way that they fix the fact that you can see their health and turn meter is that they will just all attack you at once, versus in the older version of the game where only one character could attack you per turn. Mm-hmm. While we're talking about version differences, let's segue into this segment I like to do every episode: No Country for Old Games. Before we talk more about Live Alive, we have to talk about how readily available it is to play. That way, people who are interested in playing it can check it out. The subject of video game preservation means a great deal to me, because I believe that video games are an art form and thus create experiences that leave some kind of impact on the people who play them. That's why you're here today, John. Unfortunately, that means very little publishers who have historically struggled with keeping older games available on modern hardware, such as Square Enix, if we were to use a specific example. As time goes on, games that were once easily readily available to purchase and play become more and more difficult to acquire. So we are going to rate today's game, Live Alive, on a scale of A to ARG. And ARG is obviously an expression of frustration over how hard it is to acquire this game, and is not me covertly advocating for piracy. That's illegal. Don't do that.
It's not allowed.
That's money Square Enix could use to like invest in AI or NFTs or something. I don't know.
Ugh.
Yeah. So As stated earlier, Live Alive was originally a Japan-only release for the Super Famicom in 1994. It would get re-released on Nintendo's Virtual Console for the Wii U in June of 2015, and later for the 3DS in November of 2016. But in both of these instances, it was still a Japan-only release. Part of the reason it rarely received re-releases is because its publisher Square Enix required permission from the guest illustrators who designed the characters in each world. Which is why it's a miracle that the game eventually did get a full HD 2D remake that was released worldwide in 2022, 28 years after the game's original release. The remake was also published by Square Enix, and co-developed by their internal team, Team Asano, known for games like Bravely Default and Octopath Traveler. Serving as co-developer was Japanese developer Historia, known for the Caligula Effect series. Nintendo served as the publisher for the worldwide Switch release, which is why you can buy the physical Switch version on their website today. The game's original director, Takashi Tokita, returned to serve as the game's producer, and the director's role was taken over by Sun Sasaki. The Live Alive remake was built in Unreal Engine with updated UI and sound effects. The game is largely faithful to the original, though some quality of life features include gameplay rebalancing and adding in-game radars and maps that help the player find where they need to go to progress the story. Voice acting was also added. The original version of Live Alive had multiple possible endings. The remake adds one new ending, labeled as the true ending. Yoko Shimomura, our GOAT, also returned to arrange and orchestrate the updated soundtrack. In addition to her rearrangement work, she also provides a new boss track for the aforementioned extra ending. Another soundtrack change was adding a vocal track to the intro of the near future chapter, Go, Steel Titan. These vocals were provided by Hironobu Kageyama, who famously sang the opening theme to Dragon Ball Z, Cha-La, Head Cha-La. 'That's the background on the remake. As to the game's availability, we can run through this very quickly. The original version of the game is straight up an ARC, right? Like you cannot.
No, it is. It's impossible. I don't even know how I played it originally. I had a guy like my. I had a dude who had a computer ready with it on it. I don't know how to get the translation. I don't even know if ROM sites exist anymore. Playing the original one, especially in English translation, I have no clue how you'd even do that.
The game that means like this much to you fell off the back of a truck.
It did.
Yeah, it's like you happened into it. It found you. It's like a stray cat.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It kind of did.
Yeah, the remake, by comparison, the one released worldwide in 2022. You can go onto the Nintendo website and buy a physical copy of it today.
Yeah, thank God.
Digital-only versions of the game would later be released for PS4, PS5, and PC on April 27th, 2023. But if you want a physical copy to keep with you, yeah, you can still buy one. It doesn't have the original version of the game on it, though, so this is kind of like the original gone. It was available in Japanese virtual consoles. Those are shut down now. It's only the remake if you want to play it legally.
Yeah.
But you didn't do that necessarily. Nope. So we need to give a quick shout out to a group of ROM hackers known as Aeon Genesis, who made this game available. They were the ones that translated the game. They originally released.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. I didn't realize it was them. Cool.
Yeah. You may be familiar with their work if you played Cave Story before it had an official English release, because they were the people that originally translated Cave Story.
Yep. Okay. Did that.
Yeah. In 2001, they did the original fan translation of Live Alive, and they went back and redid it in 2008 to really do it some more justice.
That's probably the version that I played.
Yeah. So for 21 years in America, or for any English-speaking country, that was the way you could play Live Alive in English. It was totally just like a fan project, a group of ROM hackers with varying degrees of experience and different skills related to modding and ROM hacking, going through the effort to letting other people play this game, like letting people like you actually interact with it. So it is really through their hard work that English speakers can appreciate this game as much as they do.
Yeah, and I owe them a huge thank you. I didn't actually know the name of the people that did it, just because my friend did it for me. But there's no way that's not the version that I played, and that's really cool. That's formative for me, and I'm glad that you told me who translated it.
Yeah, and if you look under your table, you'll see one of the
devs is there with a gun.
Yeah, they're here for their $15.
No.
Shout out to Aeon Genesis. That's a gift. That's something that they don't necessarily profit from that. I think they're donation based entirely, and I think through the legitimacy they built up working on the translation of Cave's story and doing translations like this, they have been able to get official work on retro re-releases and invite people who have the rights to any retro games to reach out to them. That's tremendous. I mean, thank you, Aeon Genesis. And you're always welcome on the show if you have video games you want to talk about, anybody who works on localization. You have played the Super Famicom version of this on a computer, and you now have played the remake.
Mm-hmm.
What do you prefer to go back and revisit?
I wish I had played both of them in a closer amount of time, because there is legitimately how old am I? There could be a 20-year gap in between when I played that first one and when I played it now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would be able to say which one I prefer based on gameplay, because it's like you brought up a little bit earlier. There's some quality of life changes, like being able to see, the ticking bar of your enemy's ATB or what have you, and health bars and that kind of thing. And there's always a charm to playing a genuine original thing as opposed to its remake. However, I do think I can't beat around the bush with it. I was so excited to play this remake. Like, I think that's a huge factor. Like, when I played the original, it was like I was discovering treasure that I was never going to see again. And when when they announced the remake and I finally had it in my hands, and like the translation was similar to what I remembered, like all these jokes are coming back to me. It was like my grandma came back from the dead. Like I was, I have never been more hyped for a remake of anything. Like, I don't care about remakes usually at all, but the fact that it became so accessible, I think I preferred that experience, just because I was like, this is the closest I am ever going to get to, finding out Darth Vader's Luke's dad's for the first time. This is the closest I'm ever going to get to seeing the opening to Evangelion the first time. Like, this is a childhood memory that was so formative and so singular, and I'm getting it again. And the first time I got to hear the remix of the boss battle music that has lived rent-free in my head for 2 decades, and it blew my face off because of how good that remaster was. The remake is just so good, y'all. It's the nostalgia is there for the original for me, but that turned the remake into just like one of the best video game experiences I've had in the past like 15 years. I swear to God.
Yeah, it lived rent free in your head.
It did. It brought me back to life.
Yeah, that's a really wonderful story. I mean, like I get that, this kind of the universe sort of throwing you one, and I guess compared to the original game, it is a financial success. It sold 500,000 copies. This version of the game. So that's
pretty good if you ask me.
This is the thing. Square Enix has definitely been like tightening the leash now, but there was just a few years in early 2020s. I think it was like that sort of like a COVID optimism of the workforce where they're just like, we'll just hire 1 billion people and make whatever you want. I don't know what like the motivating market force behind that was, but for some reason they're just letting anything come out. And did any of it hit? Not necessarily, but were a lot of very specific people happy with the stuff that came out? Yes. I think a person could dedicate their whole life to the stuff that Square Enix has been putting out over the last 6 years. And now that's over. That money, it's like they can't figure out how to make money off of anything that's not near Automata or Final Fantasy. And even with Final Fantasy, sometimes it's like, fuck, that failed, fuck.
That's very true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, all those games they released were all the ones that I had played too. It felt like Christmas for no reason, for me specifically.
It's like if kids ran school for a couple of years.
Yes, exactly. Like, pizza every day?
Yeah, and then it's like, now the party's over. And it might be over forever. I don't know. I think we have another chance to live alive here. In its first 2 months of release, Live Alive sold 500,000 copies worldwide. Don't ask me for its sales figures beyond that, but I can guarantee it was at least one more because I bought a copy on Steam in 2025. The Switch version of Live Alive holds an 81 out of 100 on the review aggregation website Metacritic. The PS5 and PC versions that followed it hold an 84 and 85 respectively. But we're not here to reduce the legacy of Live Alive to review scores or sales figures. We're here to discuss what it means to the people who played it. So let's get into that, John.
Perceive the cube. The cube will begin to spin. Continue to perceive the cube. You may begin to experience a sense of empathy. Do not attempt to perceive the cube's inner feelings.
That just makes me want to do it more.
The cube will gradually become intermittent. Continue perceiving the cube during its absence. Allow the cube in your mind to come to a stop. Continue perceiving the cube at all times.
Oh, I think I stopped perceiving the cube for a second.
That's fine.
The Disappearances of Lydia Fontaine. New episodes June 21st. Or you can listen to the pilot now at lydiadisappears.com or on the Moonshot Network.
Now, let's talk about what this game means to you, John. What do you like about this game, and what does it do that you wish more video games would do?
Well, the first time I played through it, the thing that really stood out to me, it wasn't necessarily the battle grid system. I do think it's cool that it has its own unique battle system, but I think the thing that really resonated with me was the amount of characters you got to play as and the variety of what each character gave to the player.
Mm-hmm.
We were making a joke about it earlier. It's like, this is 8 games, but it kind of is. Like, they take a very basic sort of RPG core and they present it to you 8 different ways, and each one is visually and aesthetically unique. And that's something that I think it's the best game that has ever done it. The closest thing that I've ever had to other games that do it is sort of the individual chapter sort of system where you play as a different character for different parts. And I think at like a top level or a superficial level, if you will, I would say that that's the thing I wish I saw more of in games was, if it's an RPG that's story-based, more individual time with characters if you want me to care about them more, right? Like, an RPG, the narrative is a big part of it. I'm a cartoonist, I'm a comic book writer. I love stories. Like, that's like my favorite form of media to consume. And I think that the way that it was done in Live A Live was so, like, concisely executed that I'm just desperate for other people to try using the gameplay mechanics to present different characters in different ways. Like, I think that is solely unique to Live Alive. Like, in Cube's chapter, you fight 2 battles maybe, and then most of it is walking around in the overworld and dialogue. And then in the modern day chapter, where you play as the Street Fighter guy, you feel like you're doing a fighting game arc, but really it's the same game. You're playing the same game, but it's presented differently for each character. And I would love to see that in anything else, but we only get sort of like a diet version of it.
It's interesting, right? I think of games that would do this kind of thing differently, where it would deliberately make each game play differently to reflect the sensibility of a different thing. Like, you're playing as this character, so the game plays like this, and then, you're playing as this character, and they're just a completely different person, and they occupy this kind of space, like a game that like is half visual novel, half action kind of game, right?
Right.
With this, it's everybody living in the same world. Diegetically, I guess would be the word for it. Ludonarratively, I don't know. They're all playing with the same pieces. Like, the way they interact with other hostile human beings is the same. The battle system's the same. The map, the way you walk around and interact with things is the same. There's differences, right? There's those differences depending on how you play it. And certainly the frequency with which battles happen and the genre of the thing is different. But I think the strength is that it is consistently the same style of presentation the whole way through. Like, it's all staged Like you're watching like a stage play that is just doing a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and each act, while it's fundamentally the same, feels different enough that you don't feel like you're playing. Like no two characters. It's like the most tired way to put it. It's like no two characters' campaigns feel the same. Like there's none of it feels dull or repetitive.
Yeah, and it's not just because of where the game takes place, right? It's not just simply that distant future and prehistoric are on complete opposite ends of the aesthetic spectrum. It's just like there's a lot that goes into the prehistory thing. One, there's no language.
No dialogue at all. Like that's fun.
Yeah, no dialogue at all. You don't even need the English patch for this one. And with the distant future, it's almost entirely dialogue. I struggled a little bit doing the distant future thing initially because I was like, is this the whole thing? Is this, I'm just interacting with people? There's so many more efficient ways with which we could communicate. But I came to accept what it was trying to do within the parameters of it is, like not thinking of it staying in the RPG style format that the rest of the game is as a limitation, but as a part of a greater whole that would pay off with the final end game.
Yeah, and it does ultimately.
Yeah. Yes, if you're impatient and you were expecting to play a turn-based RPG, I could see why that would be upsetting. But I think a thing that's making me think about this stuff differently is like, when you say you like a John RPG, it's not because you want to be in combat all the time or you want to be exploring all the time. It's kind of like the way different things sort of play out. Like if nobody would complain about grinding if the gameplay was perfect and engaging in every single fight.
Right.
We like the loop. We like the way things are staggered. It's not the same game constantly. This is a game that's like playing with that, with like, here's a section with absolutely no combat whatsoever. It's the movie Alien. It's a mystery. What's happening?
Yeah,
here?
it's Alien and Space Odyssey. And it's, if there's no combat in it at all, except for maybe 2 fights, but it's not, it's not perfect, but it goes back to what, again, I feel like I've really hitchhiked onto your thing that you said earlier about authorship being obvious. I think that it's a good example of like, it's not a perfectly executed idea, but it's a very distinct idea, and trying it out and seeing the experimentation that happens in this game, I think adds to the charm to a huge degree. It's a huge reason why I like it.
Yeah, I think that by making it the same, you are asking and letting the players sort of think about things differently within different contexts. This is a game that sometimes I would use a guide for just because I wanted to make sure I would never like look ahead. I would just make sure that I'm progressing properly because there's map issues, even with the quality of life. Having basically a walkthrough in the bottom right corner of your screen at all times, I still got a little turned around and making sure I was heading in the right direction. But
yes,
I try to make this playthrough as much of a surprise as possible, like in the Imperial China chapter.
Oh, yeah.
Where you are playing as an elderly kung fu master, allegedly the originator of kung fu at all, finding a successor, and you start training the successor. And it turns out you are going to be playing as one of those successors for the rest of the chapter. And I didn't know what the parameters were for that. Yeah, so like I didn't realize that you were training your successor and that there would be one person you would be playing as for the second half of the chapter, and that would be the new Kung Fu Master. I assumed Yun, the guy I ultimately ended up with, the young child, was supposed to be the main character because that was who I ended up focusing on mainly in a training. I tried to be kind of even, but I think I did one session more with him than the other because he needed more help. And I think the game, I think the game kind of just leans.
They guide you that way a little bit.
Yeah, and I kind of do it because that's the one that needs the most help. But it turns out it could be any of the 3 that you're training with. I like that because it's kind of like player agency, and that promotes replaying the game to see how things could have been different in the ultimate full run through. I really like that game design philosophy.
I feel like that's the most prominent thing you can experience differently upon later playthroughs. I didn't even know that was an option until after the remake came out. I thought that it had to be Yun. But if you do things in a certain order in the Shinobi chapter as well, like you can get different endings, find secret weapons. There's all sorts of like weirdo stuff that you can sort of find out about. It is, I wouldn't say jam packed, but it's pretty peppered with, secret bosses, secret items, and the little variants in the endings that you can get.
Yeah, I would say the prehistory chapter is appropriately the most simple and straightforward.
Yes.
That's the one that plays the most like, a Dragon Quest type RPG aside from its specific combat scenarios. It's primitive, almost deliberately so. It is a bit of an ask. I think a lot of people apparently do recommend starting with prehistory, and that's what I did.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think that's where the game sort of gestures you toward. If you look at the order of how they lay people out, it was a bit of an ask to be like, oh, is it going to be just noises the entire time?
Yes.
But I got into the groove of it, and I did find it charming.
It's interesting that they would recommend starting there. I've never started with the prehistory one. This is actually something I was thinking about when you were talking about the distant future chapter. Which chapter, like, I don't think I would recommend anybody start on the distant future chapter because that'd be just a bizarre starting point, like the all dialogue one.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that it is kind of funny, if not intuitive, to have the pantomime chapter be the one where you start, because all you have to learn and understand is the menus at that point. Like, it's sort of idiot-proofing the base gameplay, and then you can get into the weird stuff later if you want to.
Yeah. I don't know what I would like probably point out to be the other option to be like the first one to play as, because they all kind of have like their own unique specificity to it.
Yes.
Distant Future, you can't do that one. You cannot do Twilight of Edo Japan first. You cannot do Twilight of Edo Japan
that one's way
first.
too weird.
I think the game puts that one last for a reason. I did it mid playthrough, and that was still a little tough for me. Also, Near Future is towards the end, and I feel like, I don't know why necessarily. I think that's the kind of... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually feel like that's one that, you know, you could start with, because it is sort of a straightforward JRPG. It feels a little bit more like Final Fantasy coded, where there's odd little bits and bobs, but it does feel more, you're playing a JRPG.
Yeah, it has that thing where like there's the map of the town that's scaled differently from you being in a building. And I find that kind of sensibility very charming in the way that like encounters work, and that's very fun. Like everything's kind of a grid, like the town's on a grid system too. So you're trying to like weave yourself out of the way of encounters if you don't really want to grind right now. That's the kind of one that I think is a good one to start with, the Near Future one, because it is like, this is familiar in terms of the turn-based mechanics and the presentation, but it does have enough where like, oh, that's different. That's different. I wonder why they did it that way.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good starting point. Weirdly enough, I always start on the modern day one. That's just like you just fight 8 bosses.
Street Fighter style, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, this one's so fast. And also, that was when I played the first time, that was what we started on. And that was a good way to learn how the battle system kind of works, just these 1v1 fights.
The way that this game was difficult for me was more of the 90s vague directions, more so than it was like the actual difficulty of the combat. I think I died a handful of times, and all of those times were because I was struggling a little bit with Twilight of Edo Japan in the way that I was trying to do a stealth run.
Yeah.
There's only one way for you to level up in that one at all, and that's classic RPG grinding, but we'll get back to that. The modern day one is a lot of fun. I think that's kind of the thing that gets the most into the spirit of what this game is trying to do within its presentation style. And it's also funny that Yoko Shimomura is just ripping herself off musically.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
She's one of the for those of you that don't know, she co-wrote a lot of the music for Street Fighter 2 back when she was at Capcom. So the battle theme sounds like Ken's theme because it's the person who wrote Ken's theme.
I never put that together, but that's incredible. And that is one of my favorite songs on the soundtrack.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do my DJ thing in the edit and then like play one and then let it transition into the other so you can really get a sense of how this is Ken's theme. What would you say your favorite chapter overall is?
That's kind of tough. They're different enough that I like them all for different reasons. Because it's like I have favorite characters to play as, but it's not necessarily like their chapter isn't my favorite one. Like I love Sunset. I love the cowboy.
Yeah.
But the Wild West chapter stresses me out. You got to run around and like make sure you set all these traps right. And if you don't do it right, the boss battle is going to be scarier. Like I get anxiety from that, but I love playing as Sunset in the post game. But then stuff like Cube's chapter, the first time I played the Distant Future, I was so enamored that halfway through this game, there was this weird, like, only dialogue sort of spooky thing. And I think I had just watched Space Odyssey and finished playing Phoenix Wright, so I was just a tank for dialogue at that point.
Yeah.
The most fun chapter, like, in its own right, is probably the near future. Because the whole thing, I mean, one of the benefits and drawbacks, but I think more of a benefit to Live a Live as a broad stroke, is like every chapter is derivative of stuff that is in the same genre as the specific chapter, right? Like the Wild West one, you're doing a Clint Eastwood movie that's also the Magnificent Seven, right? I got to protect the villagers from the bandits. Me and this guy who hate each other, the bad and the good, have to team up to fight the bandits from the Magnificent Seven. And, you know, the distant future, it's like this is Alien and Space Odyssey, but the near future, the one that's just like, this is every anime, I was playing through it and I was like, whoa, cool. This is Akira. This is like anti-corporate, sort of like, almost like it's Final Fantasy E, and it's like you're sort of this punk kid. You're a delinquent bancho.
Whose name is Akira.
His name is Akira.
With psychic powers.
Yeah, with psychic powers. He's a little biker kid. So you think you're playing that, and then by the end of it, it turns out you've been playing Mazinger Z the whole time. Like it's like every genre of anime rolled up into a thing, and I think that just lends itself so well to a JRPG. It's just an outstanding, fun little romp in the middle of the game.
It's a little bit of everything. I love the jerk who is a hero. I love it when there's a guy who is vulgar because of like the rough edges of his life, who, despite everything, rises to the occasion or aspires to be the best person he can be given the circumstances, whether it's through stubbornness or not. It's why I really resonate with Denji as a character in Chainsaw Man.
Oh yeah.
It's not who I am. I'm a very polite, mild-mannered person IRL, but I just really admire the fire burning in a person that doesn't really have the language but has the spirit.
I think the trope is, I think it's called the unlikely hero, and it's like that's a variant of the trope, where it's just like at a passing glance, this is the last guy you'd expect to be not only a good guy but the main character.
Mm-hmm.
This chud jerk. And it's so charming. It's great. That's another thing about Live a Live that I like. It's like, I'm sure we'll probably get into it a little bit later, but it's like there's only one character who's pretty transparently presented to you as like, this is the good guy hero, and he specifically is the one where it like doesn't pan out that way for him.
Yeah. And like player agency is a big part of like player choice being a big part of like each of these chapters in specific ways. Like what that is not going to change the major outcome of your story if you ultimately beat it, but the choices matter in ways that feel significant to you. And play with the whole like, what is the not even morality, right? Like I'm thinking about Twilight of Edo Japan. This one's fun for me, not just because of the decision you make at the very end of the chapter, but because you can choose whether you are infiltrating, what would you describe it as? Like,
it's like a shogun's castle, basically.
Yeah, you're basically going to war against the shogunate as a ninja, and you're rescuing, a prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
And you can choose whether you want to fight people, kill them all, kill some of them, or just do perfect sneaking and try not to kill people as much as possible. And I try to go for the route because I'm a Metal Gear fan. I want to go the non-lethal route. I want to see what the game does to make me sweat on that. And that's why I struggle with that one the most, because you do level up in that one. There are certain chapters where you do not level up at all, like the Imperial China when you're playing as the Elder, he's already max level. When you're playing in the Wild West, you cannot level up the kid there, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
But you can level up the ninja that you're playing as. And that is like, do you want to level up by slaughtering and ending human life? Or do you just want to press the challenge here?
Yeah, it's tough. And they don't make it easy for you either, like the not killing people thing. They've got plenty of booby trap rooms that unfairly get you jumped by bad guys if you just go through the wrong door.
Yeah, and it's generous to an extent because you can run away from when you get caught. You don't have to be forced into battle,
mm-hmm.
Which I appreciate. it is just funny, the image of like, oh, that guy. Oh, no, never mind. He's not there anymore.
He probably ran away.
Must have been the wind.
They do create exceptions, like you can kill ghosts and you can kill giant fish, but you cannot kill human beings. So I had to like go into the room where you fight ghosts and grind out some levels so I could actually beat the end boss quickly. And it paid off. The reward is, I think you get like a better weapon if you choose not to slaughter everybody, but that it's one of those RPG things where you do find a better weapon in the end game like 10 minutes later anyway. So that was kind of like I guess I just did that for me, but I had fun doing it.
Yeah, I'm sure you get different dialogue and stuff too with the prisoner that you save, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the prisoner who you save, that is a real life human being, by the way.
I knew they'd arrive with a bang. Though firing the cannons was a bit much. What's that? Who am I, you ask? I could have sworn I'd already told you. I'm Ryoma. Sakamoto Ryoma. And out there, on that great black ship, are my comrades in arms.
So the prisoner that you save at the end of the chapter is Ryoma Sakamoto, who was a real person who existed in the end of Edo, Japan, and was one of like the major forces that was like, hey guys, what if we I just read some stuff from America and I think that stuff's really awesome and cool. I'm really into that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness idea. What can we do about that? And you save him at the end and he's like, by the way, my name is Ryoma Sakamoto, which is like,
you might as well be like, by the way, I'm George Washington.
No, it's more like there's no perfect analogy. Like imagine, I wish we kind of had more instances of this in America, because it'd be like if you saved a guy from like prison and he's like, thank God you did that. Yeah, my name? John Brown.
Oh.
Yeah, you want to help me with this Harper's Ferry thing I've got going on here? And then like you get a yes or no answer. Yeah, but like you could choose whether you want to be like the bodyguard of Ryoma Sakamoto. That's like the final choice you get to make at the end of the chapter. And I had to think about that because I know a little bit about Ryoma Sakamoto, and I know one of the things that happened is that he was assassinated in real life.
Oh no!
And I wonder if like my Live Alive character would have stopped that from happening. Mark Wahlberg on the plane style.
Oh,
yeah. So yeah, lots of interesting player choices you can make in the Edo Japan chapter alone.
Yeah, it's good stuff. The variety's nice.
It's hard to say like what the favorite chapter is, because I do think this is one of the most like textbook examples of a game greater than the sum of its parts.
Yes.
Do you have a least favorite chapter maybe?
I think the two that I like the least, it's not because I don't like playing them. It's just because I think it's just because they're the longest ones. Even though we just talked about how great it was, I always get stuck in the Shinobi chapter, the Edo Japan one, and can never decide what I want to do, which usually results with me looking at a guide and trying to like decide that way. And I'm like, man, I hate when I have to do this. Like, I hate when I have to like do research on how to figure it out, because I'm getting exhausted of trying to make the decisions on my own. It's still a great one. And then I think maybe the only other one I sort of forget the details about is the Imperial China one. Every time I play through it, I have a great time.
The ones we've talked about the most, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I like both of these ones, but it's like because they are the longest ones, like the ones where you do make the most decisions and you sort of have time to spin your wheels about everything. I think I like playing them the least because I'm just indecisive with how I want to get through them. It's like we talked about how you could have one of three disciples be your successor in the Imperial China one. I mean, both times I defaulted to Yoon, and now I'm like, well, would I do Yoon? I'm like, if I knew ahead of time that I had other options, would I have changed it?
Yeah.
But again, they're incredible. It's just like I always just sort of like I sit with them longer.
Yeah, there's always sort of something at the end of most of these chapters that indicate that you could have maybe done something differently.
Mm-hmm. And those are definitely the ones where it feels like you could have done the most differently.
There's always like a tell at the end of every chapter where something can be done differently. Like I think a good story, like even if you do know the twists and turns to it, it makes you want to revisit it a second time with a fresh set of eyes. It doesn't ruin it. Like it doesn't hinge on the twist. It's just like makes the experience feel deeper. So like knowing that, oh, I could do the Wild West thing differently. I could lay more traps this time.
Yeah, it's like what will change. And I think it's rare that a JRPG lends itself so transparently to the idea that it would be worth it to play it again, because JRPGs are inherently so long. Like, normally, if you finished a JRPG and at the very end they're like, you could have made some different choices 80 hours ago, nobody is going to be stoked about that. But in Live Alive, since the chapters are so short and ultimately the game is pretty short for a JRPG, it does lend itself to the idea of playing through it again.
You know, one game that tells you could do things differently is Chrono Trigger. And it does allow you to replay the game again with that information in mind. But the thing is, like, the game's easier because it's like an early version of what New Game Plus became for a lot of games, where you do retain your stats, but you are just using that knowledge to fix the loop that happened the first time. So that's a kind of the cleaner idea of this thing. But I am really into this thing where it's like you could do each of these scenarios differently when you're ready.
And not to be the world's only Chrono Trigger critic here, because I think my most controversial take is that I do like Live a Live better than Chrono Trigger. And largely it is because even though that game does have, like, you can go back and do things differently, I've never felt like the things you go back and do differently actually change that much. And it feels like that, I think, only because the game is singular and longer. Because what do you change at the end of Chrono Trigger? It's like you can save your own mom, right?
Whether Chrono lives, you don't have to bring him back to life.
Oh, I don't know if I've ever played and had him die.
He dies every playthrough.
Chrono does?
Yeah, the main character.
I have no memory
Sorry,
of this.
Yeah, your player character dies like during the big second act thing where you're on like the angel, like the floating island stuff. And it's like, oh, fuck, he's dead. And we just have to keep moving forward. Not necessarily. You can bring him back.
Is that before you fight Lavos?
It's before you fight Lavos, yeah. It's before the final boss.
I must have just completely forgotten about that, because I definitely had Chrono when I fought the last boss.
Yeah, you can also do an only Chrono run. Like there's like some things that you can do differently just because it's like in the interactive sense.
Huh, interesting.
Like you don't have to redeem the early game villain. What's his name?
Is it just Magus?
Yeah, Magus. You don't have to let him join your party. He could just be like a guy you kill.
Yeah, I knew about that, but yeah, it's kind of fun, I guess.
It's like more like are you attached to these characters or not? And like that is kind of your buy-in with that. If you just don't buy into these characters, then it's what you feel about.
I like the characters in Chrono Trigger. I think just the options are so obvious that, like, again, I completely forgot that playing through the dead Chrono was even on the table. Like, of course you're going to go back and change it. That's the whole point of the game.
There's a sort of with Chrono Trigger, you can do, it's all one main game, but the thing that enriches it is like your pursuit of these side quests that you have varying degrees of emotional involvement in, and the way that is you going between different periods of time just feels like I have a lot of movement here.
Mm-hmm.
With this, it's more like you are just meeting all of these characters individually and enjoying that time with it based on how much you like the tone, the genre of the thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit more heightened, but it's also a lot more...
it's more concentrated, I guess. Like, it's succinct with what you're doing.
I would call it more specific artistically. Yeah. I think it feels more personal.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, which I totally see why this one would hit more with you. It's not necessarily cleaner, but it is a lot more, one, ambitious, two, just like it's wearing itself on its sleeve a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, you sort of get that variety. And since each chapter is so insular, you sort of get to see the impact of your choices happen much faster.
Yeah, it's like one of those, like, you don't like this chapter? Well, it's going to be over in an hour anyway.
Yeah.
But that does kind of tie into, and I guess we can go into spoiler country a little bit here. While these chapters do not overlap in any major way, there are recurring bits that are significant. For example, there is a father and son in every chapter, and the father eats shit and dies.
Every time.
We did it, Papa!
Shh. Keep your voice down. Aye, you're right. Now comes the hard part.
I know, Papa. 1,000 ryo. That's all we need to steal for the Watanabe clan.
To restore us to our former glory. And share with the townsfolk, too. They'll surely honor us as gallant rogues.
Then let's hurry, Papa.
Wait. We must proceed with caution. This attic may be riddled with traps. Just leave it to me.
Papa?
Huh?
Be careful.
Of course.
Wait. Someone's skulking about the attic.
Papa? Papa!
Every single time, in different ways, even in the outer space distant future chapter.
The main antenna
has the name of the father. And if you know the name of that guy, you realize like, oh shit.
It's gone. Because of the explosion just now?
It recontextualizes it for you. Like it's mostly funny, but there is like that instance and another instance where it does not feel as funny anymore. But it is like, I think it's a great gag. I do think it's a great gag up to that point.
It's definitely a weird gag too. Like I feel like it's referencing something specific that I am not getting.
That's the thing. It feels so out of left. It's a tone shift. Like there's like in the modern day one where you're doing the Street Fighter stuff. It's just like a guy like booing the luchador character, and like the luchador character just goes off screen and kills him, and the son's like, no, you killed my dad.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Cheater! This much sucks! And so do you! Oh yeah? Suck on this!
Leave my dad alone!
Very interesting choice, and it has always sort of stuck with me as like, is this like a cultural reference that I'm not getting? But it might not be.
I can't speak to it, but that brings us to like the end game, right? There's not a lot of like but the villain's name, if you really pay attention, there's always a person you fight at the end. There's like a similar naming convention that happens. One for the family that gets killed every single time, and two for the main villain at the end is always a version of like the name Odio.
Yeah.
And then you beat all 7 chapters, and you're like, well, I guess I just beat the same guy's ass in different ways. One time he was a dinosaur, don't know what that was about. And then you just unlock an 8th chapter. You talk to me about that, John. How do you feel about that 8th chapter?
I love the 8th chapter. I know that there's a little bit of walk, fight, walk in it. It's a classic JRPG issue where it's a little grindy, but do you want me to just like go in depth on like what that chapter is?
Yeah, you go for it.
So the 8th chapter, the one that you unlock after you beat the 7 main ones, is what is it? It's medieval, is that what they call it?
They call it the Middle Ages.
The Middle Ages. It's the Middle Age chapter. You play as a knight, and it follows all of the tropes that like a traditional JRPG would. You are a hero. A princess gets kidnapped by an evil demon lord. The king makes you team up with your rival, who is a mage, and you have to go find the hero who defeated the demon before. And you form a JRPG party, and you go on a quest to save the princess. You think it's going to pan out like as straightforward as it is, because it's like up until you beat that demon lord, it's like the most straightforward one. The first thing that happens is that you are the knight, you win this tournament, you best your best buddy who's the mage to win the princess's hand.
I'm grateful for most thrilling spectacle. Let us be wed, for king and for country, for I am yours and you are mine henceforth. None holds a higher place within my heart. Not father, not any man. This I swear. In you alone, I place my faith.
And she gets kidnapped. The whole thing is saving her. But then after you save her, you get back to the castle. And what winds up happening, spoiler alert for those who want to play, and I recommend that you do, the hero's ending sort of falls apart after it happens, where the princess is supposed to marry you, but she does love your best friend, the mage, and the two of them conspire to, if I'm remembering the details right, it's been a minute since I played the dialogue out in my head, but the way that it pans out is you wake up in the middle of the night and you can tell something's wrong, and you run out, you're the knight, and the demon lord, he's in the castle, you start a fight with him, and then you one-shot him, and then it fades, and it turns out it was the king. And you just got tricked into murdering the king by the mage, I think. Your buddy threw an illusion on there.
Yeah.
And then reveals that him and the princess are like hooking up. And then you kind of crash out over it. I can't remember if you kill the mage outright in that moment. But ultimately what winds up happening is because the hero's ending doesn't unfold, the character that you play through as, the knight, he winds up filling the role of Odio in his universe and becomes sort of like he becomes the time period in which evil triumphs over the hero. And that's the running theme throughout the entire game, is you have these separate chapters, but the fundamental sort of thing that stays the same is that in every time period, evil will manifest in some form. However, it manifests in the shadow of a larger person who can defeat it ultimately, and that's what the hero is in everything. It's like every chapter has its own unlikely hero that has to fight the same sort of like idea of evil conceptually in their own time period. But when you get to this 8th chapter, you think you beat the bad guy, but it turns out this is the time the bad guy wins. And ultimately that leads to the final chapter, in which the bad guy dimension goes so badly that he brings all of the heroes from the other good guy dimensions that you had played as to his evil realm. And you gotta go beat his ass.
It's like, oh, you beat my guys so hard that it pissed me off, and I'm just going to kill you guys myself.
Yeah.
The character is Orsted. Your close friend, the mage, is Stribo, and that becomes the person that you ultimately have to defeat at the end, because it's like he allows himself to become the Lord of Dark.
That's what it was, yes.
'Twas simple.
Easy. With such fear, you fled.
The contest's champion, so strong, bold. Abandoned good hash. Hero left to rot. But blackest final crime soon to come, when guided I your hand in murder just, a thieving king who gifted you my love, disgraced. Yet still you came to ruin us, as is your wont. A singular creature, insatiable destroyer, selfish beast! You've never been content to share your spoils. I've tried, friend. I believed that you could change. But that competition in you cannot. You'd never settle. Never let me win. Not even when I begged. For love! For love!
Yeah, so he becomes the Lord of Dark, but because he felt betrayed and manipulated by his best friend, it's very Shakespearean in that sense, where it's not that Orsted is just evil, it's that he keeps learning the wrong lessons or the wrong
conclusion, basically. Yeah.
He makes the wrong conclusion because he doesn't understand, like, oh, like they wanted to be together, and like my love was taken from me, and she's dead now, and she's gone, and he feels truly, deeply, fully alone. The hero before him sacrificed his life to save everybody.
By love and trust and faith will we be saved. A single soul's enough when against the world we stand.
The elder wizard sacrificed his life to let Orsted free from the prison. His best friend he had to slay personally, and the princess took her life.
In you I placed my trust. In you my faith. For father, even though good Strabo, he... And yet, despite that wrong, he loved me still. He suffered dearly for your sake, your pride. A hero's legend built on sacrifice, with victories hard won by better men. Anointed hero, glory to his name. And Strabo, sweet and humble, be forgot. But not by me. I'll not betray our love.
And Orsted was manipulated into taking the life of the king and is vilified.
Naught remains. Alone. Utterly alone. Cast out. Unloved. Outside the grace of gods. The Archons roost. They call this shrine of death. Yet nowhere do I spy our Lord of Dark. His throne sits empty, wanting for an heir. Did I not do all that was asked? Did I not serve and seek my fair and just reward? And for my deeds, they damn me. Name me demon. And who am I to deny it? Demon, then, renouncing former ties and titles. And in their place, I claim... the Lord of Dark, Odio!
He sits in a dark throne, and that's when he changes his name from Orsted to Odio. And it's a hatred that manifests so strongly that like it reverberates through history, this evil.
Yeah.
And the villains you fight are variations of Odio. And while they're not reincarnations, I don't think Orsted was a dinosaur in a past life. It is just like this idea, this almost dialectical idea in every point in history. Like this is historical materialism. Like at every point in history, like you have to overthrow that thing for a new norm to be established. Mm-hmm. So in prehistory, it's like this religious cult that sacrifices young girls to the pit to be eaten by a dinosaur. Your dumb shithead kid character saves the girl from the dinosaur, and that evil is slain and defeated, and that god idea is no longer present. Mm-hmm. In Imperial Japan, it's like this wealthy, I was going to say influencer, just overthrowing the concept of like wealth and the way that becomes like a gang.
Yeah.
Destroying that. The Wild West, it's just protecting a town from
people who would take advantage of it. Yeah, it is. It's like thematically it's the idea of evil existing in various forms throughout the context of history.
You are overcoming the thing that is subjugating the people of that time. Sort of a religious cult again in the near future, but the specifics of that are quite frankly insane and awesome.
Yeah, it's like also corporate, also gangs, also drugs.
Yeah. The shogunate in Edo, Japan. And the reason I use John Brown as like the comparison for Sakamoto is because both specifically were driven by the principal ideas of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And John Brown was like, I don't think those slaves get the right to the pursuit of happiness. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of Sakamoto's like idea around the shogunate. Like these guys do not let people do what they want to do. And I think that's the kind of thing. It's like this idea of like, kill the bully. You're killing the bully every time.
Yeah. And it's just great. Except the one time that the main guy becomes the bully, and then you have to deal with that.
Yeah, and there's multiple endings that you can get in Live Alive. Do you remember like what that ending was when you played it through the first time?
Yeah, the first time I played through, I think there were still a few endings in the first one. You could choose to play through the last chapter as Orsted, which is kind of weird. You basically just kill you play as all the last bosses and kill all the main characters. And then afterwards, Orsted goes like, ha ha, and then it ends.
It's almost like intentionally unsatisfying that you do it because you just do 8 boss battles, but you're playing as the villain every time. Hate wins, I guess. That sucks.
That's bad ending 1. And then bad ending 2 is you get all the way to the end and you fight. What happens in the final chapter is all the other main characters wind up in the medieval map, basically. The Middle Ages map. It becomes the evil realm. And you form a party of whichever 4 you choose, and then you go fight Odio, pure Odio, the source point.
Yeah, you can pick the person that you play as to start with, and you have to find the other group of people like somewhere on the map. So
yeah, because you can start as any of the main characters that you played as, but even if you don't start as them, you can still find them floating around on the map, which is I like that a lot.
Yeah, like where you start on the map is determined by which character you play as. And you have to find the people that you want to recruit onto your team. And when you do, this is a part of like the thing where this game is surprisingly robust in terms of player choice and agency. It's not just like, oh, there's different endings to each chapter and like you can make different personal choices that kind of define how the rest of the chapter is played in ways you anticipated or didn't. It is like truly like your party composition at the very end is something you can control every single party member of, and how much you want to train them up if you want to get their ultimate weapon. If you want to do their special dungeon that's all in this special evil dimension. You can choose to do that, or you can just go right to kicking that guy's ass.
Yeah, you can do it any way you want. It's very fun. I know that one of the other bad endings, which is kind of interesting, is if you just lose the last boss battle, you get an ending. And the ending is the bad guy goes like, haha, and then he destroys like everybody's world and turns them sort of like his evil realm. And it plays its own, I think maybe, I can't remember if it's the only time this song plays, but there's a song called Armageddon, but it plays that song again when he turns everything into the nightmare realm, and it rips. So it's like comically kind of fun to watch him destroy the world once.
There's two Orsted endings. There's a second Orsted ending where you play as Orsted and you do the whole like, all right, time to do the boss gauntlet, right? Just kill the main characters of the story that you're now attached to. What you do is like you get your character down to critical health and you press the flee button, and instead of the flee, it's called Armageddon.
That's what it is.
Fuck it, I'm losing, and you just press the I'm gonna destroy the entire universe button because you acted like a baby and rage quit. Those are the two Armageddon endings.
Those are the two ways you can lose to him proper or be a big baby while you're trying to be a bad guy, which is pretty funny.
They're coming for me. No! Stay back!
Wait, where did you get that piano?
It's like there's different endings you can sort of stack in any direction. After you defeat Orsted, he sort of says like, okay, kill me. Like he turns back into a guy. And you can choose to spare him or kill him right there. And if you kill him right there, all of the main characters are like, okay, we got him. And then they're like, well, I guess we're stuck in his hell dimension forever. And then the credits roll there, which sucks.
Yeah, like, kill me. You must kill me. And then you enter a battle with him, and then you
one-shot
kick
him.
The shit out of him, and it's not exciting at all anymore. It's kind of pathetic.
That one's a stinker, designed to be unsatisfying. You're not supposed to do that. And then the original ending, the only good ending in the Super Nintendo version, was you spare him and then you start leaving, but then as you leave, he comes out and makes you do a boss rush. Every character has to solo the last boss from their individual timeline, but you're like level 1,000,000 now, so you just one-shot them, and it's like super awesome, and the good guy theme song's playing the whole time. And it kind of ends with Orsted being like, what? Like, I can't beat you in any context. Evil can't win in any context as long as there's always someone to stand up to it. And the good guys kind of go, yeah, idiot. And I can't remember like exactly how that one pans out in the Super Nintendo, but it is like the good ending. Like you defeat Orsted after he learns that he's a big dumb loser, and then everybody goes back to their distinct realms. And that was the only ending you could get. It was still a little sad for Orsted. He realized that he made the wrong call as he's, biting the dust or whatever, but it's a little bit more vague.
Oh, I've wasted my life.
However, in the remake, they added another ending. In my opinion, a lot of people refer to it as like an entirely different ending, but I think it's just sort of like they updated the ending to be a little bit more satisfying. Because ultimately what happens is, after you do that boss rush, Orsted triples down and he manifests as like this super duper last boss called the Sin of Odio. He effectively like becomes the personification of the original Sin. And you get this, I hate to say it, this super sick, awesome last boss fight where Orsted's sort of like Evangelion style crucified on this big monster. And as you fight, he's sort of like fighting with the idea that he has to commit to being an evil bad guy. But as you keep whipping his ass, he sort of like is physically like snapping out of it. And then the way that the fight culminates is whoever's not in your party at the time jumps onto the map to fight with you. So you got all 7 characters there, and then they all get their health refilled. And then every single one of you gets to pop off your best attack if you're level 99. You basically get like a cool anime ending where it's a little bit less like Orsted being like, oh no, I picked wrong, and him getting sort of like a redemption arc. Like he's more redeemed as he bites the bullet, and everybody gets sent back to their realms, and everything's sort of hunky-dory again. I would say it's less of a different ending and more of just like a super version of the same idea.
Yeah, I think what happens is like it gives the characters, the ones that you choose, a better chance at like taking something from this ending.
Yes.
A special ending scene will play while I think the song is Live Over Again.
Mm-hmm. Live Over Again?
And then Live for Live, I guess his name, the other song. And then it's like the end screen is like the chapter ending quote for whatever character you picked as like your lead for the last chapter.
Oh yeah.
But like really it's like very impersonal defeating Odio in the normal ending, the good ending as it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why did you do this to me? My memory will live on. Curse you, He-Man. And then you get all sent home, and it'll fade to black, and then whatever the music of your protagonist chapter is plays. But that special ending, like that little like cherry on top kind of thing, where your character that you pick directly interacts with Odio.
It's so sick.
Yeah.
I actually kind of I forgot about that variety too. That's so cool that they do that. I know that they added, this is not quite the ending, but before you fight like the last boss that feels like the last boss, not the special ending, the first fight with pure Odio, in the new one, he gives you like an awesome evil villain speech while like scary organ music plays over it. But whoever you've got in your party, he basically like cuts a promo talking about how each one of you individuals are like frauds in your own right. It's like, oh yeah, you little caveman, you beat the monster. You just did it because you want to get laid. You're actually a selfish idiot and you're friends with a monkey. Oh, cool cowboy. You saving that village, does that make up for all the people that you blew away with your 6-shooter? No, you suck too. Like there is more. You're right. I kind of skimmed over that, but there is more variety in what the engagement is with the characters in the remake, which is awesome.
Yeah, he basically interrogates like the motive of everybody before you like enter the fight. He's like, for Oboromaru, the shinobi, it's like, why? Just because like your creed, your clan demands that. It's your code that binds you and damns you. Because like Odio's whole thing is like, I did the right thing and I got punished for it. And Oboromaru is like, yeah, the code that guides. I walk in honor and I live to serve. Pogo, Odio turns to the caveman. He's like, and you just wanted a woman. You wanted a woman to touch you, a simple joy. And he's like, we out.
He goes,
It's like the peanut butter baby just going like, ah.
Yeah.
For love, a woman's touch, a simple joy.
And the cube, like cube is the little robot that was made.
Yeah.
And it's like, because you believe that your maker made you great, and like you just have faith in your maker, God or whatever, like what he's doing there. And the cube's like strength and fame for the modern day fighter man.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to be the best.
Yeah, he just tries to like be the other side of. I mean, it's the whole theme of the game is like every good casts a shadow that's evil, right? Like it doesn't always pan out the way you want it to. And that little bit where he calls out each character individually for the wrong way to interpret good intentions is just, it's good writing, guys. It's so good.
It's good. Like he interpreted his own legacy wrong. Of course, he's going to take the most bad faith wrong lesson he could about the heroes who did everything right, unless maybe Oboromaru may have slaughtered every member of the shogunate. But I don't know. Maybe someone could argue that like those guys deserve to die, John Brown style. I don't know. I'm not the arbiter of morality.
Yeah. What is right? What is wrong? What is live? What is live?
What is live? What is love? What is life? And if you win, whatever protagonist you choose will like say like he'll be like, I don't understand. I did everything right and they indicted me. What went wrong here? Whatever character you chose, like just gives him like a speech that again like clarifies like why they do the thing that they do.
Are these my hands, stained black with blood and sin? What wickedness I've wrought, and all for what?
Nothing wrong with wanting more. Wanting to be better. The best even. But that can't be everything. The struggle, the fight, the pursuit of power, you can't let it cost you your soul. When the dust settles, when you're old and weak, that strength of spirit's all you'll have.
Indeed, for power comes in many forms. Oh, how was I so blind? The fault was mine. A weakness deep within my broken heart.
And a criticism I think we both have about this game is like, if we had known that we could have a girl in this like party at the end here,
yes,
we probably would have had a girl, because this game is it's 6 dudes and a robot.
Yeah, it's 6 dudes and a robot. That is my biggest critique. You beat me to it, because I'm sure you're going to ask me at some point what my critiques of the game were. One of the biggest ones is there's technically one girl main character that you can play as if you know how to do it. And then other than that, I think there's only like maybe 2 female party members in all of the chapters.
Mm-hmm. And one of them's half naked.
Yeah, she's in a shell bikini.
It's something. this does kind of like show a bit of weakness here, especially because like the thing that I looked up, because I didn't want to like have to do the ending 6 different times with a different protagonist to like read what everybody had to say. But whether you choose Yun, Lei, or Lee, Lei is the girl, and then Hong is the other guy who could possibly win. Basically, Orsted's like, well, these my hands, stained black with blood and sin. What wickedness I've wrought, and for what? And then like Lei, who's like whole steals, like she was a thief who was trying to steal from the kung fu master when they met. What she says is like, it hurts to say it, but you remind me of me.
Hurts to say it. But you remind me of me. The old me. I saw what others had and hated them for it. Wondered why they deserved so much, and I so little. But I had it all wrong. Most of them hadn't gotten where they were just by asking for it. And what little they'd done was only a fraction of what they'd tried to achieve. That's just how it goes. We don't always get what we want. Sometimes what we wanted was never ours to take. And sometimes all we can do is try to be better. Do the best you can, and hope that it's enough in the end. Maybe that doesn't make much sense, but I've made a lot of mistakes. Still do, from time to time.
To strive for something more, a better self. I too have made mistakes. I turned my back. By men, abandoned, thus abandoned men.
That goes.
Yeah, that goes hard. I'm trying to remember who I beat it with this time around.
Yeah, let's talk about the party.
I think the first time I played through, the main character I picked for the ending was Cube. I started with Cube because I thought he was cute.
How strange. A construct without heart or soul. Whence comes compassion? Whence arises love?
John Madden, John Madden, John Madden.
If not from these. Perhaps 'tis what you lack. In absence, value understood.
You.
Indeed. I dwelt on it much. Once upon a time.
This time around, I think one of my first one of the core memories I have of that last chapter when I played it so long ago was that getting Sunset was the first thing I wanted to do, and it was a giant pain in the butt because he just keeps walking away from you, and you have to follow him around a bunch, and it drove me nuts. So I think, oh, you know what? I didn't start as Sunset. I started as the Street Fighter guy because I remember he starts in the castle, and I was punching my way out of there. It died a bunch, which does explain why I couldn't remember what Sunset said to Odio at the end. I guess I never found out because Street Fighter guy said it instead.
I've been on my own for a while now. I left it all behind. My life, my people. But as the nights have added up, all that time out there alone in the cold and the dark.
He spins his gun.
Sick.
I've come to miss the warmth of good company and a home to hang your hat.
A sentiment I share. Such hate I've nursed, and solitude I've sought. And yet, and still, for all their faults, I miss them so much.
That rips.
Yeah, I want to give the people a home I never had.
God, this game's so good.
It's fucking great. It's great. Like, it's like a thing where it's like you see it through. Anything that you feel like you lack within the chapter will deliver on at some point later. It's greater than the sum of its parts, I promise.
Yeah.
I can't promise that. I don't know what the guarantee of quality is. I'm not the Nintendo guarantee quality of approval. And that doesn't mean anything either.
That don't mean nothing.
Yeah. Point is, I think it's great. I think it's thematically poignant and it was surprisingly effective. So you had who on your team? You had the fighter.
Yeah, I had the fighter. I remember I went out of my way to make sure I got everybody and got their weapons. So I was cycling through people. Although the one weapon I didn't get because I couldn't remember how to get to the dungeon was I didn't get Akira's because his secret dungeon you have to teleport to by accident.
Yeah.
Which is so specific. I'm like, dang, that does feel like an Easter egg and it's kind of cool. But I think I did beat it with him in my party anyway. I think my party was Sunset for sure. I love Sunset. I think I went Sunset, Cube. What's the modern day fighter guy's name? It's not Ryu.
The fighter, I think it's Masaru.
Masaru. So it was Masaru, Sunset, Cube, and Akira, I think this time around. Because the first time I beat it, it was like everybody else. It was Cube, Pogo, the Shinobi, and it might have been Sunset again, actually. I don't know. But one of the things that I think benefits the game and makes you have a lot of options for that end game period where you start picking your party is that none of the characters fit into standard JRPG archetypes, i.e. like physical damage dealer, guy who heals, caster, that sort of thing. We haven't really touched on how the battle gameplay works too much. It's largely each character is unique and functions singularly. Like you could probably, I bet people have beat the game with like one character at the end because each one of them is sort of self-sustaining, which also kind of makes it harder for me to remember who I beat the game with because it could have been any of them.
Could be anybody. Could even be you.
Could be you, listener.
Yeah. I know my party was because I wanted like a logic to it, like something that felt thematically appropriate for me. But like the trick is, no matter what you do, it can be appropriate because there's kind of an underlying motive for all of them where it's like, yeah, could have been evil, chose not to be. I like being a hero. It rules. It rules. It rips, and it's awesome. So I think my team was, I started with Yun because I like the idea of like, this is somebody who had something passed on to him and he's carrying it forward and like was made stronger as a result of this encounter. And also like that final finishing move is really strong and very helpful.
Oh, and it looks so cool.
Oh yeah.
You've always had faith in me, Shifu. Today I repay that faith! Lei, Hong, lend me your courage! Our Shifu's greatest secret!
A desperate bluff.
Heavenly peaks descend!
I had to get Oboromaru because I did do the stealth run ultimately, and also has really cool attacks when you actually do use combat with him. Oh my god. But I like the idea of like this guy who has a code, who chooses not to end life senselessly, has a darkness underneath it, just chooses to do the right thing, at least the way I played him. So I was like, boom, you're in my party too. Sundown, because I like a rough around the edges, like tough guy who is there to do the right thing, even if it's not for his own personal benefit. And you would think, because I love the Akira character so much, that I would put him in my party. And I didn't, because I didn't really care for his actual moves.
Yeah, he's got the weirdest moves out of everybody because they're all like AoE. They like do a little bit of damage all over the place. I swear to God, if I'm remembering this right, again, I'm a little rusty since it's been a minute since I've played it, but I'm pretty sure like the last like 3 or 4 moves he gets are like the good ones. Like he finally gets like really cool stuff at his highest level.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like all of his moves, the animations are real weird. It's just sort of these goofball, like big sparkly effects.
Mm-hmm. Despite everything, and I even love the sound effects of all of his moves. And I really enjoy his story. The vulgar hero, the orphan, the poor kid. Every reason to be evil, chooses not to be evil. Wants to what's best for orphaned kids everywhere. Even when like the religious corporate organization is turning parents into goo for their god, more blood for the blood machine.
You got to turn them into the what is it, LCL from Evangelion?
Yeah, which is funny because it predates Evangelion by at least 2 years.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's kind of funny.
It's like Hideaki Anno being one of like the 250,000 who played is like, good idea.
Taking that one.
Yep. Yoink. So my 4th team member was actually just Cube, because Cube rules.
Cube rules.
Cube is just like, I'm Cube. And you can like make the argument that he does represent something, this idea that like goodness and love and altruism doesn't have to take a human form. You can say that it is like something about like just the legacy and how that something is carried forward, like from creator to creation, whatever you want. You can put something into it. Me, I like Cube. Cube rules. That's my reason.
He is a robot that is composed of an orb on tank treads. He's 2 feet tall, and he's wearing a backwards hat and glasses, and he's got a little smiley face. And that's it. That's Cube. And you can't beat that.
And somehow, low-key, a heavy hitter.
Yeah, doesn't he like unfold and just like a gun comes out of his whole body? Like that's a big ridiculous move that he has. He like turns into just like a railgun.
There's an attack that Cube has that like just complete like does like a hurricane attack that like knocks enemies back, which can be very tactically advantageous. But yes, he also has like I have a giant gun and I'm going to shoot you now, which he did not have in the chapter. But
yeah, he gets all of his moves. Some of the characters become more interesting in that last chapter because you unlock a bunch of stuff that you didn't have access to, like the modern day guy, Masaru. Yeah. He learns a bunch of cool new Street Fighter moves.
Yeah, because he's like Taskmaster. Like he like sees somebody do an attack and he's like, "That's mine now."
Yeah. So by the time you beat his chapter, it's like you learned all 8 attacks, and that's kind of it. But then you're leveling him up in the last chapter. It's like, oh wait, he's learning his own stuff. Now he can punch the earth so hard it explodes.
Yeah. He's voracious. He wants to learn as much as possible. And if it destroys the world, that's because your attack destroyed the world. So reverse Uno.
Yeah, actually, you did this.
No, you are already dead.
Wait a minute.
Oh, shit, he's right. So yeah, no, Cube is also just interesting because all the other characters level up in a traditional manner. But Cube, you have to find like upgrade parts to level it up.
Yeah.
Cube is genderless. There's just something endearing to me about that. Like I have to like go out of my way to find like little robot parts to give to Cube if I want
to make him stronger,
Cube to be viable at all.
That's interesting too, because that is kind of a holdover from previously briefly mentioned Saga games. So you've played Romancing SaGa, right?
I sure have. I haven't beaten it.
Don't feel obligated. Have you played Saga Frontier?
I haven't yet.
So Saga Frontier it's another degree removed from that. Both of those games are a continuation of this even older series that I think started on the Game Boy, and it's just called Saga. It was localized as Final Fantasy Legends. I don't know if you've heard of those. Those games are weird because they're just Saga games. You don't level up. You level up your stats. But there is a particular, in one of them, I can't remember if it's the second one, there is a character class you can pick. I think it's like races. Like you can be human, elf, monster, and I think robot is an option in one of them. And the robot works the same way where it's like you don't level them up. Their stats don't go up. They just have a bunch of item slots that you can put on them. They're just ambiguous, like put item here. And the stronger the item you put on them, their stats go up from there. And I kind of feel like that is a weird, like there's no way that overlap existed at Squaresoft coincidentally. Like that had to be a Saga thing that wound up in there.
Yeah, maybe. It's like I think the reason it was like a tactics game was because like half the staff was from like this Japanese only series called Hanjuku Hero, which was a more tactical real-time strategy game. And then the other ones were like, well, we're the Final Fantasy guys. It's like how like Final Fantasy Tactics was like, hey, we did Tactics Ogre. You guys want to do something?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny how this stuff like emerges and then diverges. Like within Final Fantasy alone, it's like there's the people that worked on the 6 and Tactics people are different from like the 7 and that like whole divergent path. It's a different group of people working on those ones, and people are partisans for some reason. It's like it's different flavors.
Mm-hmm.
For this is such a unique and specific flavor, and it's very it's obviously influenced by what came before it, but the way that it's able to synthesize that into something so new and so specific before going into doing stuff like Chrono Trigger and stuff later is so cool.
Yeah, it really is. I always call it the redheaded stepchild of Squaresoft. It is like the oddest one and the most memorable because of how unique it is.
Yeah, it was better than my idea of like it's the Boo Radley Chrono Trigger. Yeah, which is, hey, Boo Radley rules. That's the whole point of the book.
That is true.
And is a good heart, and you shouldn't judge people just because they are a certain way. Anyway, the point is, I think that this is a really, really wonderful game. If you are willing to engage with it on its own terms, there are some flaws. We've gestured at them some. Is there anything you dislike about the game or wish was better about it as somebody who's played it in 2 different forms?
I mean, not to sound like a complete mark, but the reason this game I like so much, I think it is because it's catered to me such a degree that I basically don't have a single complaint. Like the closest thing I've ever had to a bad time is there are some points, if you really want to 100% that last chapter and find all the bits, you are playing a map that is a traditional JRPG. So it's going to be like random encounters are present in a very specific part of the game to a degree. It slows the pacing down a little bit, but that's just because most of the game does not have a ton of random encounters. But that last chunk, especially if you're walking around a ton trying to find all the items, it slows down a bit. But again, that was an issue of my own making because I didn't need to go find all the secret weapons or all the secret bosses. I could have just paced it out quickly if I needed to. But yeah, no, I love the gameplay. I love that it's a short game. I love that there is not a lot of resource management. That's always kind of like a real deciding factor, I think, in how good a JRPG is like, does it feel high maintenance to sort of juggle your items and be aware of everything? Because all the characters are self-sustaining, you don't really need to worry about like curing status effects. That like all the stuff that's like designed to vex you has a streamlined solution because it's more about the storytelling than it is dealing with sort of the D&D problem solving of most traditional JRPGs. But they need more girls. That's my critique.
It's like it's not exactly Final Fantasy X-2 in terms of the number of girls available to you.
No.
It's a little limited there. The same number of girls as there are robots, and the girl is more optional.
The girl's completely optional.
The girl is completely optional. It's missable. It's a missable girl.
Yeah.
We miss you, girl. It does definitely have like its edges. I do think the quality of life stuff is good. A lot of it is like almost so additive that when you run into the things where it's like, oh yeah, this is a game from 1994, it kind of throws you for a loop. Because there is some 1994-esque game design, like the whole like you have to leave a room and then come back to it for the story to continue, and you don't really know that, so you're just sort of wandering a little bit. But if you have the map on the corner, you'll see, oh, Orange is back in that room I was just in. I guess I would have lost 30 minutes if I didn't see that.
Was that in the Imperial China chapter?
I was thinking this is something that happened like prehistory. It was like where the girl is hiding behind some jars or something like that.
Oh yes, there's some of the dithering about the map really fixes that up.
There's a section of Earthbound where like it shows you how games can just dick you around and waste your time.
Oh my god, yeah.
And I love it in that context because it's knowingly doing it. And in this case, it almost feels like it's, oh, this is an example of that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens when you play the deconstruction first. I'm never going to complain about like it having like maybe 2 or 3 tracks per chapter because all those tracks are awesome.
Yeah, they're so good.
One of the best parts of Final Fantasy VIII is how there's 2 different battle themes depending on the context. And this game has like, what, 8 unique battle themes?
Every main character has their own battle theme. And they sounded great on the Super Nintendo. The remasters of the music, I could bug out about for the entire length of the podcast. I love the remixed music so much.
Really
so good. That saxophone in the modern day one. Jesus.
Yeah, it expands on some ideas. Shimomura came back to arrange the stuff because it was like, oh, this is very important to people. I should be involved. The same way that the original director came back in like a supervisory role and started consulting like, well, if you're going to do this, we should definitely get these voice actors in Japan to do this because these are the people I imagined in my head doing it when I made it at the time, and we can do that now.
So cool.
Yeah. So apparently it was like a big budget blowout for the Japanese dub. One of the voice actors who participated in it was the voice of Joseph Joestar in the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
What?
He was apparently a fan. He was like, I want to be involved in this as a fan. Can I just voice some randos? So like if you have some leftover parts, can I have him? And he's in like every chapter as a different guy in the Japanese dub.
Oh, that's so cool. I played it in English, which was also a good dub as well.
I like that the English dub is like a lot of complete unknowns from various backgrounds. There's a lot of great accent work in the English dub. The guy you saved at the end of the Shinobi chapter, saves you. You save him, and he has like a very like weird Austro-British accent, and apparently it's trying to emulate a specific Japanese dialect that we don't really have a context for in America. So it's just like, imagine if like a weird limey Australian accent just came out of a guy's mouth, and you're like, oh, okay.
That's always fun.
Yeah. Apparently it was Nomura who worked on the later Final Fantasy games and Kingdom Hearts, who consulted on the accent work for the Japanese version in the 1994 version.
Oh, cool.
They like knock on the door. It's like, hey, you know anything about weird accents? Like, do I?
Boy, howdy. I'm the weird accent guy.
He has a credit for consulting on a dialect.
Sick.
I'll tell you, some days I wonder whether this country will ever enjoy peace again. We fight and squabble for such petty reasons. In the end, no matter who seizes power, people being people will continue to kill one another. Man's most singular, enduring trait is his capacity for hate. I dare say that will always be the case. Nevertheless, I still believe it possible for us to overcome our nature and change this tired state of affairs. For I have faith in Japan's future.
So this game, very obviously impactful for you. You talked about how it was like a design influence on you. What other ways did it impact and influence you?
Weirdly enough, I feel like it did affect my sense of humor a bit. It's a bit understated. It is a funny game. Like there's a lot of silliness in it. It's one of those things where I'm like, I forgot that I was quoting it, like one of those type situations. I think about the opening sequence in the near future chapter where your buddy rolls up on his motorcycle to beat up some gang members, and the gang members go like, "Who are you supposed to be?" And he goes, "Who am I? I'm a local businessman." And then he just starts like beating them up. I'm like, this is awesome. Like it's just so it's so weird and so goofy.
Mm-hmm.
It affected my my instincts, I think, when it comes to storytelling in my comics a little bit, because of how succinctly they have to get you from point A to point B in those chapters. You spend exactly the right amount of time with the narrative for most of the narrative driven ones. It doesn't get too long in the tooth unless the gameplay and when the gameplay and story are tied together like real hard, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. I think that's why I have a little bit of a harder time with the Imperial China and the Twilight of the Edo period, because there is a lot of story and gameplay happening simultaneously. But I like the quickness of the gameplay, or the quickness of the storytelling, because it helps you like get to know these very specific personalities of characters very quickly. I think there's a lot of really good storytelling elements in it that are, you know, unique in video games as a whole. Like playing a chapter with no dialogue at all as a caveman, playing as a character who can't talk in the distant future where you're just an observing robot. Like Cube has no, from what the other participating NPCs know, they think he has no personality. They think he can't think. So he has to just observe. And then in the Wild West chapter, you're playing a character who's the strong silent type. He just doesn't say a lot, but he's choosing not to, and he like shows who he is through his actions. I'm like, these are very specific choices that let you get to know a character quickly, and this would be impressive if they used it in a a film or a comic. It's extremely impressive that they use it in a JRPG.
Yeah, no. I'm now thinking of like somebody doing like an impact font meme of Cube, but it's the Idris Elba, like, learn to sit back and listen. Not everything needs a reaction.
Yeah.
They are like, he's just a stupid robot. You made him to like bring us coffee, and it's shitty coffee. Like he does nothing. He can't do anything right. And the whole time he's like, you as a player are experiencing this story through like Cube, and you may not be able to talk to these people, but you are absorbing their story and you have feelings about it. And at the end of the day, you're the one that gets to save the day by playing a video game within the video game.
Yeah, it's great. It's just the specific choices in storytelling are so good, and I think that it impacted me to a degree where like I sort of started thinking about all characters as living in their own chapter in a larger narrative. So whenever I write something, I feel like I sort of have live on the brain, and like there is a fast way to let everybody know what this person is like. And I've seen it done on a Super Nintendo, so I'm like, I know I have ideas for how to pull these things off. It's a rare thing where it's like, I love this video game, and then I feel like we've talked about it for hours at this point, and I feel like we have spent maybe like 15 to 20 minutes talking about how the video game actually plays versus like the narrative and construction of these stories and stuff, And I think that's kind of crazy if you think about it. Like there is so much there.
Yeah, I mean, it's what resonates, right? It's the best for the experience. I don't know, like I love how it's able to do that. This is a game it was the first game I beat on my Steam Deck when I got it. Bought this game back in March of 2025, and I bought the Steam Deck in May of 2025, and now it is February 2026 when we're finally talking about it. It's been a long time coming. I beat the game over a series of a few months, playing it while I was traveling for work, and I would be flying a lot, so I beat half of this game just on various airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
basically like each chapter is almost a 2-hour flight's worth of time.
Yeah, that's pretty short.
Yeah, and you can just get so much. Everything is like this sort of like episode, or in your case, like an issue of a comic. It's like a one-shot that feels complete on its own, but when you take in the whole like set, it all contributes to a thing that does sort of cross over into a good way. And like crossover feels kind of hack now in the world of like cinematic universes, but being able to like successfully pull off like a meeting of the minds and like having that have value to you, the player, that's a tricky thing to pull off. Like if you do not care about these characters separately, it's going to be hard to care about them when they're not going to be really talking very much towards the end. But yeah. I think the game does a good job at like being as much game as you want to be. Those dungeons at the end are totally optional. If you just go for it, you can go for it. And if you don't, I mean, like, hey, just run to the end here. The game, you can prolong the life of this game, but you can also beat it in 20 hours. I think me doing half the dungeons in the final section of the game put me at 26, doing more than one of the endings. I recruited all but one person because I didn't know the condition for true ending, so I had to go back and do it again by recruiting that last guy. But yeah, no, less than 30 hours.
Yeah, it's short. It's great. I love it. It's succinct. I think you said you bought it in 2025. You get your Steam Deck in a few months later. I'm pretty sure I bought the remake the second it came out and beat it in 3 days. I was so stoked to play it. So I feel like that's why I'm a little bit rustier on the edges, because it's been probably almost 4 years since I've played it at this point, which is insane.
But you remember so much of it. Like, it's really names that go away first anyway.
Again, this is a game that I have played 2 times. I played it once when I was probably 14, and then I played it again when I was 32. And I still think about how good this game is in the context of how much I loved playing it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like maybe one other game that I beat once or twice and was like, that was so good. I don't want to play it for 10 years. I want to play it again like it's new again. It's like that and weirdly Gargoyle's Quest 2 or something.
Look, maybe we can talk about Gargoyle's Quest 2 sometime. It sounds like an interesting one to talk about. I like these specific games. Not a lot of people who listen to the podcast have maybe played this game, Alive, or whatever you want to call it. But I'm glad you got me to play it so we could talk about it here. One, because I really enjoyed it, and it was quite a gratifying experience, and it doesn't just feel like monumental and important and influential just because like, oh, the Undertale guy likes it, right? It's not just that. It's not because it's like proto Chrono Trigger. That's not it either. It is work that stands on its own, and I'm glad that there was a chance for this to be properly localized and remade for a modern audience. That's like incredible that something this small did that. Yeah, no, thank you for introducing it to me.
Of course. Honestly, thank you for playing it. It's definitely one of those games where, like, you know, we talked about it way earlier, where like my foundation of video games is weird from the get-go, just because I didn't play a lot growing up. I pretty much just got the satisfaction of learning about these games and talking about them. So I wound up learning about weirder and weirder stuff. And once I found out about Live Alive and how much I liked it, it went from being this like mystical secret, semi-secret thing that I kind of knew about to this, I don't want it to be a secret. I want everyone I know to play this because I love this. But it's like trying to get someone to watch a weird movie that they've never heard of, but you love it. I can't even think of a movie weird enough as an example. Like something that's just like, it's great, but nobody knows what I'm talking about, so I just sound like a psychopath. This remake has made me so happy. I've lent my copy to like 4 people. I'm like, everybody play this, please. It makes me so happy that you played it, honestly.
Yeah.
It's such a great game. It's so good.
I'm thrilled with it. It was great. I eat this stuff up. I love any game that can like make itself distinct from the genre that it's living in to tell its story. Earthbound does that. This is sort of like, again, we talked about and alluded to Undertale Deltarune, but it's definitely playing with that formula too. And I love this. I wouldn't even really call it scrappy. It's just sort of like, everybody give me your ideas. Give me what you feel like should be in this game, and sort of like picking the best ideas from that. And somehow this project worked out. So hell yeah, I'm glad that this has endured over the last 30 plus years. Anything else you want to talk about before we move on here?
No, I think I've bugged out enough about how much I like it. Everybody gets the point. Play the game. Play the game.
Play Live Alive.
And if you don't want to, play Live a Live instead. It's spelled the same and looks the same. Just buy that.
It's like Pokemon. It's Pokemon Live and Pokemon Live.
Yeah.
Now that we've finished our discussion here, what would you recommend for people who may enjoy stuff like Live Alive or Live a Live? What would you recommend?
Well, fortunately, because of how much I liked Live Alive, I did spend a long period of time trying to find things that scratch the same itch. So I actually do have a short list.
Please.
Weirdly enough, we did bring up some of it. I do think Saga Frontier and Romancing SaGa share a similar amount of the same charm, where it's like they're trying something different and weird. There's a very specific genre of RPG that is, we're going to try something different, but not how like Final Fantasy is trying to do something different, where we're trying to make any game but an RPG. We're going to try to make an RPG differently. And the Saga franchise, we talked a little bit about how you don't level up. You like gain stats after fights, almost every fight.
Mm-hmm.
But it does have similar notes in that you get to sort of pick a character that you play through as and find other main characters. And you are, in Romancing SaGa, it's a little bit less, but in Saga Frontier, which is the sci-fi PS1 game that was also recently remade for Switch, again, that remake came out after the Live Alive remake. And I was like, okay, they're just remaking all the games that I want to play. I'm fine with that.
It's a John RPG.
Yeah. And that one comes with a built-in art book, which is crazy. Some of the concept art for Saga Frontier is nuts, and you just get to access it from like the character select menu, whatever. But that's another one where it's like there's 8 main characters. They finished out one that they didn't in the PS1 version for the Switch remake. So there's like a whole new guy you can be, and you play through sort of this like planet jumping sci-fi adventure. And every character has a different ending to their chapter. I don't know if there's an ultimate chapter because I've never beaten everybody's bit, but there is a unique, it's sort of like 8 unique JRPG plot lines in the same section of outer space. Like you go to different planets, you don't go to different like villages and stuff. But that one's very good. Romancing SaGa is more straightforward. It's a high fantasy JRPG. Something I like about the franchise that is present in both of those games is because you don't level up, you don't just learn a new move, right? Because normally you do that when you level up. So instead, if you are in a boss fight or fighting a strong enemy, sometimes your character will like have a little idea bubble pop over their head, and then they will just bust out a new move. And it's like the most hype thing ever, because sometimes that will happen simultaneously and 2 characters will do their turn at the same time and do a crazy combo attack where it's like, this guy learned this move and the other person also learned a new move. So they do it at once. It's very weird. It feels very off the cuff. Like you don't have a lot of control over how the battle goes, which makes it fun, but that's also a drawback. And so that's Saga Frontier and Romancing SaGa. And then to bring it all the way back around to the beginning of our conversation, Dragon Quest IV, subtitle Chapters of the Chosen. The way that this game starts is you play through a bunch of different individual chapters for each member of the party before ultimately starting the final chapter where you start as the main character, the protagonist, the hero. So each individual party member, I think there's 2 sisters that have a chapter together. There's sort of like, I want to say 4 or 5, I might be overestimating that, individual little story arcs you do with each member of the party in Dragon Quest before ultimately you play as the main character and start the final quest. That's sort of, it's a very diet version of the idea of individual chapters. But Dragon Quest is a great franchise. It's super accessible anyway. The chapter setting is fun, and it is the only Dragon Quest game in which the protagonist became so popular that he was plagiarized for Final Fantasy and made into Sephiroth. Sephiroth is a ripoff of Basarum the Manslayer. You heard it here first. But jokes aside, the main antagonist of Dragon Quest IV sort of set the standard for like villains that are interesting characters. And he was so popular that in later remakes, it was originally released on the NES. Japan got a Super Nintendo release. We got a Nintendo DS release. In later versions, the character was so sympathetic and his backstory was like sad that resonated to people to the degree that they actually added alternate endings where instead of him becoming like the ultimate lord bad guy that you have to beat, you do a chrono trigger and go back in time a little bit, I think, and prevent like the thing that sets him over the edge, and then reveal the bad guy who made that happen, and then he joins your party as like a secret party member. It rules. I found that out recently. I didn't know you could do that.
Mm.
But that's Dragon Quest IV specifically.
Hey, put that belt down. Put that belt down.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah,
so good. But those are the three big ones I can think of. Obviously, there's stuff like Octopath Traveler that's been coming out that's trying to emulate it, but ultimately, I'm like, this just feels sort of like homogenized HD 2D remake-y nothing.
So Octopath Traveler is influenced by the original Live Alive, but the Octopath Traveler, like the game, predates the remake of the Live Alive, which is
yeah.
It's a hard thing to talk about in reference to that, but it's like, yeah, this art style was curated by Octopath, but it's influenced by this older game that did also get an HD 2D remake later. And honestly, I like the Live Alive version of it more than I like the Octopath Traveler version of that aesthetic.
Yeah. I think that's kind of more what I mean. I don't necessarily mean that it's like, I know that it predates the HD 2D. It's sort of like heralded all these HD 2D remakes, but I feel like the through line of these, this is a tangent, but the through line of a lot of these like new Squeenix releases that are HD 2D new things is that they're all derivative of something else that Square Enix has made, which I think is kind of bizarre. Like Octopath Traveler, I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is a Saga game that's kind of like Live a Live. And then you've got Triangle Strategy.
Yeah.
That's Final Fantasy Tactics. And then you've got this new game coming out called The Legend of Elliot, which first of all, I do think that one looks more interesting, but I also think it's more interesting because I'm like, well, they're doing a Chrono Trigger / Secret of Mana type thing with it. They, like all of the ones that are new content in this style are derivative of something that probably should just be getting the HD 2D treatment. So if you want to try Octopath Traveler, by all means, but they also have HD 2D remade 2 of the 3 games that I recommended if you like Live a Live, which is Saga Frontier and Romancing SaGa.
Hell yeah. Do you like the HD 2D style as it's been executed so far?
Yeah, it's I'm lukewarm on it. Like I'm not. Every time I see the little Unreal Engine pop up, I'm like, yeah, I know. I honestly wish it would be. I know that this is not going to be like something people are going to be like, he's got a point, but I think we like aesthetically. I liked the not HD 2D 3D elements that the later Pokemon games brought to the table, like pre 3DS.
Yeah,
like the way that Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, Black, and White look, where it's like you have these 3D settings with sprites running around on them, but the 3D settings are, the graphics aren't that good on them. I feel like that looks a little bit more in harmony sometimes than the stuff we get now. Like I told you earlier, I'm playing through the Dragon Quests, and I love seeing a slime in any context, but sometimes I'll be like in a fight with 3 slime sprites, and I'll look behind them and see like a real ass tree, and I'm like, we could have. I'd be fine if it was like PS1 graphics. I want it to be a little bit more in between the original PS1 Dragon Quest VII and the new Dragon Quest VII. If we're going to do HD 2D,
it's like a really like hyper detailed TIFF file of a real life tree that's back there.
Yeah, like we got a cartoon in front of it. Okay.
Yeah, it can be a juxtaposition in some context, I imagine. This is the only HD 2D game I've played. I do not have a strong opinion on like the aesthetic style. Something that does resonate, though, is I do agree that I like the pixelated style for Pokemon more. I think that level of expression, that cartoonish nature is more conducive to it. And I think this is also something I've said on the show before. I do think like handhelds are a great format for RPGs, as you mentioned, like you had Dragon Warrior 3 on there. You didn't play it, but you had Dragon Warrior 3 on there. You had
played a little bit.
You played Pokemon and Golden Sun, these other like handheld RPGs that let people into this form that they may have missed out on in the 90s because of localization issues. These experiences matter. Most of the RPGs I got into, like Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, my first forays into were in the handheld format. And that is not a thing to be ashamed of. I think people are now nostalgic for the handheld thing because like the Switch and things like the Steam Deck have made it so like, oh yeah, I do want to like kind of carry games around with me. That is kind of nice. And if people are willing to accept less graphical fidelity, this HD 2D is a good middle ground for that. But I do agree that like maybe an HD 2D format for Pokemon games would be better for it. But then it's also like, I think Game Freak and the Nintendo company are kind of like at this impasse where it's like, this isn't what you're the best at, but this feels like what the market demands to sell the most units. And it's like, guys, you can change the taste around this. You guys put this out on a calculator back in 1990, whatever, and every single child in the world ate it up. You can control the narrative. You can write the narrative about this.
Yeah, no, I could not agree more with that, especially with Pokemon, because those new games, there's just something about everything being cell shaded and there being no clear art direction. Like, well, the grass is green, the sky is blue, Squirtle's T-posing. It's a 3D model you recognize from Pokemon Go on your phone. Like, there's just universal assets that are getting dropped because we've got too many Pokemon or something now, and we got to make these games every year. I would be so stoked if they did an HD 2D with sprites, do a mystery dungeon like that or something. Like, look great. Just do it. Do anything.
Yeah, like just test it out. See how it feels. Take it for a spin. Look, I like Pokemon Legends Arceus as an example, but it does feel like I'm playing a game in Unity a little bit. And it's like, this is the most successful IP on the planet.
Yeah.
And I know this is a Nintendo Switch, but like you can have a style. You can still be stylized. I would like some style if we can't have 2D images. But yeah, no. Thank you for those recommendations and for giving me your thoughts on HD 2D.
Of course.
Yeah. Quick recommendation I have. You mentioned earlier that the Sundown Kids storyline is very Magnificent 7/7 Samurai.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good time to talk about cultural ripoffs. I have this could be homework if you want to. Required reading, required viewing. Everybody on the planet should watch Seven Samurai.
It's my favorite movie.
Everybody in the world should watch Seven Samurai. This is a game about 7 heroes of different backgrounds coming together to protect people. And one of those samurai is Toshiro Mifune, and maybe the single greatest actor who's ever been born. And you can watch the American remake that is nowhere near as good, The Magnificent Seven, to see how that was adapted into the American form. That is an option. That is a choice. Whatever. If you want to see a good version of Japanese film into rip-off, try watching the film Yojimbo.
Oh, yeah.
Also starring Toshiro Mifune.
Mm-hmm.
So much stuff is Yojimbo. Yojimbo is very, very influential on the form. But one of the most immediate influences was the 1964 film A Fistful of Dollars, starring Clint Eastwood. It was directed by Sergio Leone. It's a Italian spaghetti western film that is basically beat for beat Yojimbo, but instead of it being a swordsman, it is a gunslinger in the Old West. Please watch Yojimbo, watch Seven Samurai, and watch A Fistful of Dollars. Magnificent Sevens if you have a cold or something. I don't know.
Yeah. 3 of my favorite movies and The Magnificent Seven.
It's just like, that's what the Sundown Kids thing is evoking. But if you have not, at this point in your life, watched Seven Samurai, I watched it for the first time in 2024.
Oh.
They played the restoration and out in at the movie theater in downtown Savannah. And I was like,
yep, I saw that one.
Yeah. And I was like, yep, why didn't I watch this sooner? Fantastic time. Perfect film. Yeah, so that's my recommendations. Thank you, John, for being on this podcast. Please promote the hell out of yourself before I let you go today.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you're interested in more of my comic book work, or if you just want to give me a poke, shoot me a message sometime. I am John P. Golden on Instagram, on Twitter, sometimes. Not really Twitter. That place is a nightmare. I'm on Blue Sky. Check out Adventure Time. It might be Hero's Handbook. Issue 13 through 15, I think I'm going to be doing later this year. You can go ahead and read Bone Men on Webtoon, comic about skeletons. Find me on all the social medias. If you want me to yell about video games or draw you pictures, drop me a line. Yeah, keep an eye out for more of my silly drawings. And guys, play more JRPGs. They're fun, and you can bring them into the bathroom, and no one will ever know that you're sitting in there playing your Game Boy. It's the best.
Play your John RPGs on the John.
On the John RPG.
Yeah. So, thank you again, John. Check out his work. I'm going to link to your socials and to your site in the description of this episode. Read his work. Follow him. And thank you again, John, for being on the show. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of Select and Start. Once again, I am your host, editor, and promoter, Keifer. If you enjoyed this episode, please give the show a positive review wherever you're listening to this. Engagement helps the show, and your feedback will improve it. And if you want to get more engaged, give the show a follow on Blue Sky at Select and Start. If you have thoughts about Live Alive or any other games we discussed, send a DM or leave a comment and I'll gladly read it on the show. You can also support me on Patreon. If you pledge at least $1 a month, you'll get early access to new episodes as well as extended episodes with exclusive content. That is on patreon.com/Keifer's Corner. You can find a link to that and the rest of my projects in the description of this episode. Select and Start is part of the Moonshot Network, which is supported by its own Patreon. Find out more on moonshotpods.com. The art for the show is made by my best friend, Avery Ott. You can follow him on social media with the handle @AveryRobinOtt. That is AVRY Robin OTT. The show's theme song was composed by Mike Petrie. You can check out the links in the description for both of their works, as well as John's. All right, I think that's it.
And though there is great risk, there is great reward to be found in trust and mercy.
John Madden. Are you?